Perfect. So welcome, everyone. My name is Todd Creviston. I'm a benefit educator at WestPath, and today we will cover the steps to get ready to retire. The morning part from about 9:15 or so until about noon, we'll cover all of the WestPath plans. We'll cover a demo, and we'll also review a couple of those documents that I talked about earlier that I sent out, the housing allowance exclusion, and then we'll also cover the benefit projection. So to start with, everybody can see my screen, right? We're all set? Perfect. So here's what we'll review today. We'll cover that retirement process. My understanding is everybody that's on the call today is retiring this July 1, 2025. And then we'll cover what that process looks like. We like to say that the retirement process goes through benefits access. That means that you're going to use benefits access to make your choices on which benefits you wanted to begin. We'll cover all the WestPath plans. We'll also cover just a couple of slides of Compass. That's part of getting the word out. We'll cover life stage retirement income. Its sister, life stage investment management. They both work together, although you don't necessarily need to use both pieces, but when you do, they work together. We'll cover the housing allowance exclusion, and then we'll also talk about participants' resources from the individuals that you have available at WestPath to EY, also known as Ernst & Young. They changed their name a couple of years ago. They are financial planners that are available to you via telephone Monday through Friday from like 7 in the morning to 7 at night at no additional cost to you. So it is a wonderful resource. Some common questions when we do consultations and meet with clergy. Oftentimes they say, is now the right time? Should I wait? What does a projection look like if I retire this July 1 and begin all my benefits? What does a projection look like in 2027 or 2028 if I begin all my benefits there? So that's a fun comparison and can help narrow down on that question, is now the right time? Am I ready? Is my spouse ready? I go back to when COVID first started. My wife had the opportunity to work from home. I had the opportunity to work from home. So our first day working from home was actually working from home together. We were sitting on the same side of the kitchen table, almost holding hands in between calls. By 10:30 that day, I was in the back bedroom. By 2:30 that afternoon, I'm still in that same location, sitting in the basement. So we figured out that I talk loud on the phone, and it's not compatible with my wife also working from home. So one of the things that we got to learn early, a fun thing that came out of COVID. Will you have enough income? And that's where that benefit projection comes from. That will help narrow down what that income looks like. If you also have other plans, maybe from a prior employer, or maybe you have a Roth IRA or a regular IRA, you can also talk to EY about that money as well, because that's part of your retirement profile. Where will you live? Will you move to a higher cost state for taxes? Will you move to a lower cost state? What will you do with your time? Do you need to buy a house? That is a terrific question to review with EY. They can help you understand what it takes to get pre-qualified, what those debt to income ratios look like. So they can help walk you through all of that. So to begin with, retirement looks like this per the Book of Discipline. Normal retirement is reaching the age of 65 or 40 years of service. Early retirement is reaching the age of 62 or 30 years of service. So you don't have to hit both. You just have to reach one of those milestones in each of those statements. So if you're 63, but you had 40 years of service, that's normal retirement. Mandatory is 72. And then there's also voluntary retirement or 20-year retirement. That's voluntary. You'd retire and then come back at the earliest age 62 to begin your benefits. So let's take a look at that process. And this is right out of the retirement checklist. I'll go ahead and resend that to everyone so that everybody's got a fresh copy of that. But the first step, register for benefits access, because that's where you're actually going to choose your benefits. And I have to say, it's great that we're doing a retirement webinar toward the end of February, actually middle of February, really, because you've got a number of months to figure out. You don't have to go rush and select everything today. For those who are retiring this July 1, your last opportunity to select your benefits would be June 30th at 3 p.m. this year. But please don't wait until then. It would be wonderful to have you pick it sooner. Whether, you just want to make sure you get all those choices in. So the first thing, register for benefits access. Second, verify all your personal information. Make sure that's correct. Confirm that your spouse's information is correct. Date of birth, gender. Sometimes that information gets flipped. My wife worked for the same company at this point a couple summers ago. I begged her to go in. Let's go in and take a look at your benefits, because she has a defined benefit like CRSPDB. And I went in and looked at the account and I go, what's going on here? And she didn't understand. I was kind of joking around, but it turned out she was listed as single. I wasn't listed as a beneficiary. So make sure that information is in the system the way that you want it to be. Confirm that your clergy service record is correct. And in the email that included the benefit projection, I also included the clergy service record. So it should have been both. View those or verify those beneficiaries. If you have a will, the will should also match your benefits access beneficiary designation. So make sure those match. If you update your will, make sure that you also in turn update your beneficiaries and benefits access. On the right-hand side here, that's actually a picture of the page that you'll navigate to select your benefits. So we actually call this the link with the gentleman with the glasses. So for everyone who's been processed by WestPath, you'll have that link already listed in the account summary page. And when I do the demo, I go to this page to demonstrate what selecting those benefits look like. So in 2025, we'll use benefits access again. We've used benefits access for benefit designation solely for probably the last 5 or 6 years. And it's a straightforward stepwise process. I don't anticipate anyone having difficulty in selecting those benefits. If you've gone so far as to run a benefit projection, running a benefit projection is very similar to selecting your benefits. So if you've done that already, you've probably already done about 90% of the work. There's only two extra steps to selecting your benefit as opposed to just running a projection. So those are easy to do. Here is the retirement team. We like to include this group because they're actually a subset or a department within customer service. And they work with each year's retiree class. And they can be reached by that 800 number. That 800 number is just our participant or our customer service phone line. So when you reach that number, all you'd have to say is, may I speak with the retirement team? And they'll be able to patch you right over. If by chance you're locked out of benefits access, you're not sure why, you could call that 800 number down here, and they would, the customer service person can help you unlock your account. If you have a retirement question, like a benefit related question, then you could navigate to the retirement team. Great group of people. Next up, it's important to understand all the sources of your income. Where is it coming from? And if you've been with Westpath for a period of time, you'll know that those plans have changed over time. The plan that we're currently in is CRSP, or Clergy Retirement Security Program. I'll cover all of these in a little bit more detail. Before CRSP, we had MPP. And then before MPP, we had pre-82. So that's for service prior to December 1 of 1982. Presently, I don't think we have anybody on the phone or anybody on the Zoom call that has pre-82. So we'll shorten up today's presentation by about 3 or 4 slides and not cover the pre-82. Then we'll talk about the other plans. So UMPIP, that's the voluntary plan. That's where your contributions go into UMPIP. Then it's also important to understand your spouse's sources of income. And if by chance that your spouse had a career working inside the home, taking care of the household, your spouse would still qualify for a portion of your Social Security. So I would suggest setting up that Social Security account and even having a conversation with the Social Security Administration on how to set that up and what that benefit looks like, because it definitely is a huge benefit, and it's an earned benefit. And then also, I think my next slide is actually, so SSA.gov is where you'll go to set up your My Social Security account. Has everybody done this so far? Yep. Perfect. Yes. I'm getting nods. Great. That is great. I was told that anybody over the age of 18 could set this up. I have an 18-year-old, a 21-year-old, and a 24-year-old. They've since gone and set up their account. My middle kid said, "Oh, thanks, Dad. Now I have a password I've got to remember for like 50 years. Fair enough. Yes, you do. But you set up your Social Security account already. It's good to set that account up now, because you can go in it periodically and see how those earnings appear in your account to make sure that they're correct. And you can get that corrected. Easier to correct now than once you begin taking Social Security. So all you'd need to go there. And actually, I used to poke fun at the IRS. I don't anymore. I wasn't audited. I just look back at their website. They've done a remarkable job making those documents and that website interesting and engaging. So I'm happy that it looks like that. Any questions so far? So June 30th, 3 p.m. Central. You'll need to make your benefit choices by June 30th, 3 p.m. Central this year. We like to start with the plan that we're currently in and then work backwards. So as you probably know, CRSP, Clergy Retirement Security Program, also known as CRSP, uh, it's been around since it started in January of 2007, and it offers two benefits. The first benefit is a DB, or a defined benefit. And when we refer to DB, or defined benefit, the best synonym for that would be a pension. It's a lifelong monthly payment that you can't outlive. Now, the money isn't in an account balance that's designated specifically for you. That would be your CRSP DC plan, or part of it, but also your MPP and even your UMPIP. So with the DB, the defined benefit, it's actually calculated based on years of service, the denominational average compensation, and then a factor. And that factor actually changed over time. So technically, there's two service periods with CRSP. The defined contribution is a DC, or defined contribution. It receives contribution. So that is an account balance that has your name on it, and you could see that account balance grow over time. That account balance is invested in the WestPath funds. We like to start with the DB first and review what it looks like to select that benefit. And we'll talk more about how that formula is actually calculated. We like to do that because those choices are irrevocable. So once June 30th at 3 p.m. comes by, you're not able to change your COLA. You're not able to change the annuity type. So it's a formula, and it's actually easy to calculate. So the three things that we use: the DAC, or denominational average compensation, and then multiplied by a factor of 1.25 for the first service period. For the second service period, the factor is 1%. And then just the number of years of credited service during each of those two service periods. The DAC is the average planned compensation of clergy serving full-time appointments in the U.S. So in 24, it was $78,000. In 25, it was $80,003. And then in 26, we'll just increase that up each year. That was one of the provisions that was passed during General Conference of 2024, was to have the DAC from 25 automatically indexed up each year. So it'll no longer be calculated. That was an area of concern, that if the disaffiliations were to continue, that potentially it could negatively impact the DAC. Instead of the DAC increasing each year, there was concern that it would be flat or decrease. So that provision was passed. So in 26, it'll just get indexed up automatically. And it's also the year that you retire. So if you retire in 25, but you didn't take the benefit until January 1 of 26, we still use the 2025 information. Okay. For the first service period, January of 07 through 13, the factor is 1.25. And then from 2014 through June of this year, and we're going to calculate what that benefit looks like for June of this year to begin July 1. So the second service period, the factor is 1%. Credited service: if you are full-time during the first service period, it's 7 years. If you're full-time for the second service period, that's 11.5. If by chance you're retiring in 26, then in the second service period, you'll earn 12 full years of service, and then additional service, or the plan is closed December 31st of 2025. But if you're retiring this year, it would come out to 18 and a half years of service. And here's what the numbers look like. So on the left-hand side, that's the first service period. On the right-hand side, that's the second service period. So 80,000 multiplied by 1.25, multiplied by 7, that comes out to $7,000 evenly. The benefit's paid monthly, so we divide it by 12. So that first service period would provide a benefit of 583. Plus the second service period. So that's the same math, still the same DAC, factor of 1, 11 and a half years if full-time that whole period. That comes out to 9,200 divided by 12. That's another 767 for a total payment of 1,350. There are a couple of things that will impact that benefit amount, and there's 3 of them. The first is the surviving spouse benefit. So married clergy, the standard form of benefit is a joint annuity. That means that a payment will continue on to the surviving spouse if the clergy person passes away first. Okay. And those are the life and 70%, life and 100%. The cost of living adjustment will also impact your initial benefit amount. And a cost of living adjustment is the percentage your monthly payment goes up each year. And it's great that you have a COLA, and it's even better that you get to pick it. Because you could think about your longevity, if you're married, your spouse's longevity. Do you have income coming from other sources? Does your spouse have income coming from other sources in retirement? So you can really kind of piece together where the money is coming from. And if you're in MPP and CRSP, the COLA doesn't have to be the same. The COLA can be different. And then early retirement also impacts that CRSP amount. My boss, Bob, likes to say that's a permanent haircut. Just like if you were to take Social Security early, that's a permanent haircut. So there's a reduction for taking it early, but you'll still get the COLA, the cost of living adjustments over time with Social Security and also with your CRSP DB benefit. And that's the only benefit that's reduced based on these 3 factors. Okay. Here are the 3 life and surviving spouse benefit or annuities: life in 100, life in 85, and life in 70. You'll notice they all begin with the term life. That means it covers the life of the clergy person. So 6 months in, clergy person passes away. They picked life in 70. That 70% is the amount of the payment that will continue on to the surviving spouse. Life in 100, it's a little bit lower of a payment for the clergy person, but it's the same payment for the surviving spouse. Okay. We like to say that we like to teach those 6 annuities types so that you understand all of them and that you can pick the one that matches you the best. No 2 retirements are identical. We're all a little bit different, just like our medical care. So these are areas that allows you to customize your income. Cost of living adjustment. I mentioned EY. EY also loves to talk about COLAs. So EY financial planners are skilled in just that, right? In doing financial planning. They also have a financial outlook of what they think the economy is going to do. They can help you and provide guidance on a COLA. Some of the things that you can think about when choosing your COLA would be your age, your spouse's age, family longevity. My family, we get to about our mid-80s. My wife's family, they're in their mid-90s playing paddleball, still playing paddleball. So my family is the audience. Her family are the athletes. So because of that, we're thinking, hey, I'd love to be around in my 90s. Um, I'd be the first Creviston around in their 90s, but my wife's family tends to get there, it seems a little bit easier. So that's important. Your health, your spouse's health, and then potentially other sources of income. And over the last 200 years, inflation has been about 2% on average. The last 30 years, it's been about 3%. And then that's all we hear about lately. When is it going back down to 2%? When is it going back down to 2%? So if you haven't had a conversation with EY, financial planner, I would recommend that. They are a really quality resource. Westpath has been working, or Westpath has paid the fee for EY to provide that service to retired clergy, and actually clergy and laity, for 18 years now. So it goes back to like 2006. I think about where I was 2006. You know, it's amazing that contract has been going that long. A couple of years ago, Westpath went out and did a request for proposal to look at financial institutions to see if somebody could do it better. And EY came back on top. So they are a really, really quality resource. I have their phone number toward the end of the presentation. I'll also in my demo show where you can find that resource in your account. So I mentioned that the three things that can lower your benefit. One is taking it early. Two is spousal benefit. And three is COLA, the cost of living adjustment you choose. So what we have here is an example of Reverend Wesley. Reverend Wesley is 63 years of age, has not hit the 40 years of service rule, because if Reverend Wesley hit the 40 years of service rule, or reached 40 years of service at the age of 63, Reverend Wesley would be retired, normal retirement. There would be no reduction. So it's whichever is better is how they're going to calculate that reduction. So in this example, he's 2 years early. The base amount's $13.95. And then the reduction is actually 0.5% per year. I'm sorry, 0.5% per month, 6% per year. So this is 2 years, so that's 12%. So that $13.95 is reduced by 12%, or $167. So that benefit would begin at $1,228 and then go up each year based on that cost of living adjustment. Does that make sense? Okay. So that's the CRSP DB portion of it. It's a formula. There's three things that are calculated together. That amount can change based on the annuity type, the COLA, and if you're retiring early. To begin that benefit July 1 of this year, you'll want to go in and make that choice by June 30th at 3 p.m. Central. You could probably go in today and make those choices, and it would just sit as that, what your choices were. It'd show as pending, and then July 1, those are the benefits that you'd have. So you could choose them now, even if you wanted to change. So if you chose them today, and then you have a conversation with EY 2 weeks from now, you're able to change those. So you can change it up to that deadline. The other portion of CRSP is the DC, or the defined contribution account. And these contributions were made by your employer, and it was a 2% non-match. So for being eligible for the plan, you'd receive 2% of your plan comp each month in your account, in your CRSP DC account. If you're contributing at least 1% to UMPIP, then you'll receive an additional 1% match for a total of 3% plan compensation. That 3% plan compensation is going to come back in our discussion when we talk about Compass. And just a couple slides on Compass. So that's the contributions. The contributions are from your employer. You're contributing 1% to UMPIP. So that means you'll get 3% in your CRSPDC account. It's an account balance, and you have the choice to either self-manage that money, and that means that you choose the funds that your contributions go into. So that's basically self-managed. Or you can use LifeStage Investment Management, and that makes those allocation choices for you. And does a couple other things that we'll talk about in a couple of seconds. So in retirement, CRSPDC is available as cash distributions. So a cash distribution, we'd say that's a monthly distribution to your bank account. And that cash payment or distribution can be determined two ways. The first one, you could use LifeStage Retirement Income. And LifeStage Retirement Income will calculate a payment for you based on a safety zone. We just had the Super Bowl on Sunday. So if we think about a goalpost, on the left-hand side goalpost, this is taking the money out too quickly. So if you were taking the money out too quickly, that income stream would stop. It would go away. That's not good in retirement. The other habit, the other goalpost, is taking the money out too slowly. And you say, well, Todd, what's wrong with that? Well, only to the extent that if you didn't know how much you were taking out, you might be taking out a lot less. And then you're not able to live that retirement that you could actually afford. So what that LifeStage Retirement Income payment does, it kicks the football right down the middle of the goalpost, right down in the safety zone, with a goal of making that payment last a lifetime. And then based on market conditions, each year to provide an annual increase. So the goal is to protect that money and to provide a payment for a lifetime. The other option would be self-managed. And you'll notice that that's kind of the two options. There's a do-it-yourself portion, or we've got something to help you. And that self-managed would be that you would just go into your benefits access account and you'd enter how much you wanted. I'd like $2,000 a month. I'd like $1,500 a month. And one of the things I'd like you to understand is that with all of the cash balances, you have flexibility. You can start it, you can stop it, you can adjust the amount, okay? All of those offer, all the account balances offer flexibility. The MPP annuity, the CRSPDB, defined benefit, those offer security because it's a lifelong monthly payment. You can't outlive it. So with the CRSP DC account, you can take a distribution from that monthly. Most roll it over into their UMPIP and then begin taking a distribution monthly. If you didn't need the money to July 1 that you retired, let's say you're planning on working part-time or you're going to volunteer somewhere and your living expenses are a lot less. So you don't need the same income for the first 6 months of your retirement. Well, if you don't need the income, you can let it sit untouched, still invested with Westpath until you need it. And the IRS determined day is the required minimum distribution by either 73 or 75. So if you're born from 1951 to 1958, the RMD is 73. If you're born 59 or later, the RMD is 75. So that would be the last opportunity you'd have. So the IRS will make you take a distribution on those at those milestones based on your age. If you didn't start the MPP annuity or CRS PDB, you need to begin those as well. So lots of options. With the CRS PDC account, just like MPP and UMPIP, so the account balances, any remaining balance upon the participant's death, that balance would get transferred to beneficiaries. Looks like I have a question. I plan to retire in 25, but not receive any funds until 27. How does that impact the amount I will receive? Should make it go up. Will it still be based on the 2025 figures? That's a great question. So that question, I'll need to run a manual projection, because if you're going to retire in 2025, but then come back and begin benefits in 27, that projection tool assumes that you're in active service until you begin benefits. So, Reverend, I will email you to get the particulars on what you're thinking. So I've got the retire in 25, begin benefits in 27, and then we can have a discussion around, would you like to see a 2% COLA, 3% COLA, just to give you an idea of what those numbers will actually, what those numbers will look like. The benefit projection tool doesn't allow us to show a break in service and then begin benefits after retiring. It assumes retiring and then beginning. So that's a great question, but we can get you those answers. Yes.
Okay. You're talking about I'm using the word base figure 2025, 80,000 and $3 and $13.50 per month. Does that stay in place even though I wouldn't take any funds until 2027? We would still use that number.
Correct.
Okay, that was the question I had for you specifically.
Okay. Yeah, so if you retire in 25, but you don't take the CRS PDB benefit until a later date, 27, then that means we'll still use the number of years of service that you accumulated. We'll use the DAC in the year you retired. So it's basically all the same numbers. So as a benefit educator, we're actually able to say, if you're at normal retirement, then you should take your CRS PDB benefit. Because if you retire and then delay taking it, you're just missing out on money if you're at full retirement age. If you're not because if you take it in 27, we still use the $80,003, the DAC from 25. In retirement, the number of years of service don't increase. So it's basically the same equation, the same formula, but you would have just missed out on money. Now, if you were, let's say you're 63 this July, so you're going to retire early, and let's say you haven't met 40 years of service, so you're the Reverend Wesley example that I had. So if you're 63, not 40 years of service, that's 2 years early. So if you retire in 25, you're retiring 2 years early. If you begin that benefit, it'll be reduced by 12%. If you delay taking that, then the reduction gets smaller each month. So if you retired at 63 in this July 2025, but waited until July of 26, then it would only be a 6% reduction. If you waited until 27, then there would be no reduction. But the math problem that you have to figure out, and EY can help with that, is what does 12% for my predicted longevity look like, as opposed to delaying taking that, not having any CRSP income the first 2 years, but then at 65, I get my full benefit. EY can help you with that. That was probably more than what you were looking for as an answer.
Yeah. So I need to visit with a benefits person and ask the question, is it helpful to wait to start taking money, or should I take a risk?
Right, exactly. And that's just like taking, it's the same question with Social Security. What does Social Security look like at full retirement age? What does Social Security look like if I take it early? And then where's the break-even point?
Right.
And EY, you don't have to worry about those two questions. EY can answer both for you.
All right. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. So are we ready to forge on with MPP? We're going to go back in time. This is as far back in time as we're going to go, back to 1982. 1982 through 2006. So MPP is an account balance, and it's funds that has your name on it. So you can go into your benefits access account and see your MPP balance. You can also look at your quarterly statement and see your MPP balance. And that was made up of contributions from your employer back during that service period. MPP is required to be managed by Life Stage Investment Management. So what this means, over that service period, and still to this day, it's managed by MPP, your account, your MPP portion is getting rebalanced. Should a sector or a fund grow or drift outside of that Life Stage Investment Management profile, and then it'll sell what grew and then redistribute the funds to the other, the income to the other, or the earnings to the other funds. So it will automatically keep you from having all your eggs in one basket. And then as we get closer to retirement, it'll also move money out of the equity funds and put more into bonds. The closer we get to retirement, and then once we're in retirement, the time frame to make up for a dip in the market is shorter. Okay. MPP is an account balance, so that also means that you don't need to take it the July 1, or you don't need to begin the benefit the July 1 that you retire. You can wait for the required minimum distribution ages. When you decide to begin that, you'll actually have two lifetime monthly income options. So the first one is the original one, that's annuitizing that 65% of the account balance. So the first option, you annuitize exactly 65% of that account balance, and then that becomes a lifelong monthly payment. Married clergy, standard form of benefit is selecting a joint annuity. The other option, which was just passed at General Conference of 2024, the second option is to move that 65% into the life stage retirement income equation and then take monthly distributions from there. That is a one-time decision. Okay, so if you choose to keep it an annuity after June 30th, you're not able to change it back to the account balance. And then same thing, if you choose, you wanted to keep it an account balance and use life stage for a payment calculator, you're not able to change that back after June 30th at 3 p.m. So those are the two options for 65%. That 35%, the leftover 35%, stays in account balance, offering the same flexibility as a CRSP-DC. You could start it, you could stop it, you can roll more money in, a Roth or a traditional IRA, prior employer's 401k, those can get rolled in to build up that balance. You'll have the same 6 annuity options for MPP that you have for CRSP-DB. With MPP, though, you've got 5 COLA options. You could pick a 0% and then 2, 3, 4, or 5. So all in whole percentages. So option 1 is 65% would be annuitized. And here we're just saying it's a series of benefit payments that's paid out based on the type of annuity that you chose. If it's a single life annuity, that benefit would end upon the clergy person's passing. A joint annuity, life and survivor annuity, that means if the clergy person passes away first, a payment continues on to the surviving spouse. When the surviving spouse passes, then that benefit would end. So the advantage or the pro to the annuity is that you can't outlive it. It's a lifetime benefit. The downside for the annuity is, let's say, a married situation, clergy's married, clergy retires, pick life in 70, passes away 3 months into their retirement, 70% continues on to the surviving spouse. 3 months later, the spouse passes away. So in that case, 6 months worth of benefit payments were made. What we struggle with is we don't know the day that we're going to, we don't know the day or days that we're going to leave this earth, us and our spouse. So we make the decision with the best information that we have. In the case of the 65%, keeping it as an account balance and using life stage to get a monthly installment, the advantage there is we go back to that situation with clergy person passes away 3 months in, spouse passes away 3 months later. That 65% MPP balance is largely still there. Only 6 payments were made. So that means that that payment or that account balance would then be distributed to beneficiaries. So provides a little bit of legacy money. So that's something to consider. The downside is it's not guaranteed, and it's potentially not lifetime with advanced longevity. The 35% stays in account balance. And here's just another way to look at the MPP. So the MPP annuity, the 2 choices with the 65% are on the left. Annuitize it. You'll get to pick your COLA. You'll get to pick your annuity type. Or you could keep it as an account balance and then use life stage for the monthly installments. Does that make sense? So here is an example. The next 2 slides are examples of the annuity types. These are actually an MPP payment example. So this is the annuity types, life in 100, 85, and 70 are available for the CRSP-DB and the MPP annuity. The amounts shown in this table are different because they're based off of a $400,000 MPP account balance and a 2% COLA. So under annuity type, you'll notice there's 3 of them. All 3 begin with the term life. That means it covers the life of the clergy person. The percentage is the percentage of the payment that continues on to the surviving spouse. And what we like to call out the highest payment is life in 70 for the clergy person. So that's 1235. At life in 70, the spouse would receive 70% of that. So that would be 865. The spouse would also get the cost of living adjustment as well. Okay. But I've heard clergy say, oh, Todd, that's a big jump. That's a big dip. My spouse is going to need a little more than that, or it would be more comfortable if there was more. What does life in 85 and what does life in 100 look like? And when you go into benefits access to pick your benefits, you'll get to see the amounts associated with each of these. And you'll also get to see what the amounts change to real time when you adjust the COLA. So it adds, it's terrific to be able to see that. We can
I
run
have
it
a quick
now.
Can I
Oh,
have a quick
sure.
question? Not married, at least not right now. So would that then go to beneficiaries like sister or niece, nephew? How would that work?
You could designate somebody as a contingent annuitant.
Okay.
And you'd want to have a conversation with the retirement team on that.
Okay.
And then life in 85, you'll notice that the payment, so only one amount gets paid out at a time. So life in 70 would be 1235. Life in 85 to begin with would be 1205. So just a $30 decrease in the clergy payment, but about a $160 increase in the surviving spouse. So just wanted to kind of demonstrate that concept. The lowest payment for the clergy person, you could also say, is the highest payment for the surviving spouse, life in 100. So that's 1177 for the clergy person. Clergy person passes away, 1177 is what would continue on to the surviving spouse. Does that make sense? And then here, this is still a $400,000 account balance and a 2% COLA. The table's simpler. There's only two columns, annuity type and payable to you. So this must be the single life annuities, okay? So life only covers the life of the clergy person. Payments $13.95. That's the highest payment because it's only covering one life, okay? There's two other options, and these are interesting. Life in 5 years certain and life in 10 years certain. What that means is it guarantees the payment for that period of time. If the clergy person passes away within 5 years and selects the 5 years certain, the person that they designated will receive those payments for that full 5 years. So let's say the clergy person retires at 65, picks life in 5 years certain, passes away 3 years later. There's 2 more years that are guaranteed there. So that means that payment would continue on to the person they designated. In this example, it doesn't have to be a relative. It could be a friend, it could be a church. If the clergy person picks life in 5 years certain, passes away 30 years later at the ripe old age of 95, they've outlived that certain period. So the payment will end. At that point, it is a single life annuity. So you pass away within the certain period, the payment continues for that certain period. You pass away after, it's a single life annuity. Does that make sense? In the same week, I had 2 consultations with 2 different clergy. They didn't know each other. I asked because they both said, I'm picking life in 5 years certain. They were both single. They picked life in 5 years certain because they were helping a grandchild in college. They wanted to make sure that if they passed away, they would still continue to receive that financial support. So in 1 week, I had 2 clergy say, nope, life in 5 is what I'm going to pick. So those are the 6 annuity types. The third thing that impacts your initial monthly payment is the cost of living adjustment, right? We covered retiring early. We covered the joint annuity, life and survivor. And then the last thing that changes your initial monthly payment or adjust it would be the cost of living adjustment. With MPP, you could pick a 0% COLA and then whole numbers 2 through 5 for both MPP and CRSP. So it does impact it. And we've got a nice little graph to demonstrate. So along the left here, we have monthly income, monthly payments. Along the bottom, we have age. And then the legend, we'll start with the purple. So the purple line will be a 2% COLA. So we're going to notice the slope of the line and where it starts. So at 65, it's a little bit less than 1,800. So we can call it maybe 1,700. Now, if we look at a 5% COLA, it drops it down to just a little under 1,200. So in this example, that was about a $500 dip. With longevity, a 5% COLA is going to provide the highest monthly payment. But the key word here is longevity. And the break even period would be about 75 to 77. So with longevity, you'd have a higher monthly payment. But it takes a number of years to get there, and of course, a number of years after to break even. Next up, let's look at 0% COLA. 0% COLA, highest initial monthly payment. We used to have clergy say, "Oh, Todd, I'm gonna do a 0% COLA on my MPP because I'm going to use that to delay taking Social Security." That means they're going to take a 0% COLA at 65 on their MPP, get the highest monthly payment, and they'll delay taking Social Security beyond full retirement age. And then that will be their Social Security bridge. But we've actually have a Social Security bridge now built into the life stage retirement income payment. So that's also another option. So not discounting the 0% COLA on MPP, it's something that EY can help walk you through and provide guidance on it. And then 3 and 4, the John Deere colors, yellow and green, fall nice in place right there as well. So the COLA impacts your payment right out of the gate, right when you begin the benefit, and then it'll go up by that percentage each year. Does that make sense? It's almost like a teeter-totter, right? So MPP considerations. MPP is an account balance. So that means if you don't need the income come July 1, you could leave it until you need it or until required minimum distribution. WestPath will help keep track of the need for a required minimum distribution. You could think about the 2 different options and you could review those with EY, really roll the sleeves up and talk about what are the pros, what are the cons, how would each of those benefit you, and how would each of those not benefit you. Still plenty of time in working through that. Another option, so July 1, you could take the 35% that stays in account balance and move that into UMPIP and then take distributions. So you don't need to annuitize that 65%. You could begin with taking the 35% and then wait on that 65% till later. Most clergy take that 35% and roll it into their UMPIP and then take monthly distributions from there. Whether it's self-managed or it's using life stage, I tend to think that more folks these days are using life stage retirement income. Does that make sense on MPP? MPP is an account balance, but it can provide the same types of benefits that CRSP has, right? It provides an annuity, so a lifetime monthly payment you can't outlive. Married clergy can pick a joint annuity, so it cover both lifetimes. And then that remaining 35% is an account balance, and you can take distributions from there, from your account as you choose. $382. Does anybody want to learn about a plan that you don't need? Yay! Thank you, Reverend Baker. I was looking right at you. I was channeling you. If Reverend Baker says yes, we'll go through the slides. I left him in just for fun, but we don't need to cover pre-82. Perfect. How's everybody doing? Would you like to take? We're 5 minutes away from taking a break, so we could take a break now until 10:25. Come back and knock the rest of it out. At that point, I'll cover UMPIP, the housing allowance exclusion. We'll cover life stage retirement income. Everybody will become experts in life stage retirement income by the time we're done. And then cover some resources and then do the demo.
Welcome back, Lori.
Always trying to find the right buttons, you know.
I know, right?
How are you feeling? I understand you weren't feeling so good a little while back.
Oh, yeah, no, I took a deep down dive and I feel much better though. Yes,
I'm
thank
sorry.
you.
That wasn't because we got like pneumonia, RSV, all that kind of stuff's going around here.
Yeah, mine was actually just health stuff. My body kind of took a massive turn for the worst, and so
I'm sorry.
I'm much better. My doctor's like, we can do one thing at a time, or we can just throw the kitchen sink at you and see what happens. And I said, well, I'm all about the kitchen sink because
I'm all about taking the sink.
yeah, I'm all about just
Well,
let's
I have, knock on
there.
wood, I've been blessed that I just had like a stuffy nose, you know, but we
Yeah.
had our kids program after school yesterday and some of them showed up not feeling good. I'm like, why are you here? You
Yeah,
know?
yeah, no,
I'm like, stay back, stay back.
yes, yeah, I just talked to Lori
So
Cook
I
in
know.
Gettysburg, and she said that almost 3/4 of their whole school was sick, and so they canceled school because there was no kids. So, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that happened here when there was that other run about a month ago. Even the
oh
teachers,
yeah,
like half their teachers were out. So,
oh my
you know,
gosh, yeah,
they had
it's
to,
crazy,
it is, man.
crazy.
I mean, I think this is the worst I've seen it for a while. I mean,
Yeah,
anywhere.
yeah, that's what
So,
I had taken. Eve Hook as a retired clergy, and I she's kind of adopted into our family, and so I took her in, and she ended up having COVID, and she just looked at me, and I was like, I've had it so many times, I think I'm immune to it. Don't worry.
I had it once.
So,
I had it once, and my sister decided to give that to me after we were coming back from going to New Hampshire at the end of August.
oh
Because
my
we were in a
goodness.
car together for like, you know what,
Yeah,
you
long
know,
time.
so,
Yes.
but all I felt was just really just like a bad cold is what
Yeah.
it felt like to me. Yeah, you're shaking your head too.
Yeah.
I
I've
mean,
had
I'm
it 5.
grateful I mean, I do the shots just because I'm around people, you know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and
She
I
had
think
been
it's so,
she
go
had been
ahead.
fortunate not to have any COVID symptoms, anything until just recently. And it knocked her out for about 5 weeks. And she called one day and she's like, Joanne, I feel like myself. And I said, welcome to the other side of COVID.
Well,
It
It
is, it's
happens overnight.
the energy was what took me forever to get back.
Yeah.
The energy level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's, you know, I just think it's so funny when people, well, the shot's not working. I'm like, the shot's not supposed to do all the work. It's just kind of negates some of those symptoms. What's the matter with you? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
come on, you know,
Yeah.
but
And
oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I have to say one shot that I don't tolerate very well, and that's the shingle shot.
Really, I've had that before and I think I just had a sore arm, I think.
And my doc goes, the second one is the worst of the two, so you'll be fine. I
Have you
call
had the
I
second one? Have you had the second one yet?
no, and
I
I
think
know
I
I
did.
I know I have to, right? And it's I have to get it this month, but
Oh no.
Well,
I'm hesitant.
do it when you know it's like, right before maybe a day off or something. So you're not like,
Yeah.
that's
I
not
went
fun.
in, I went in for my annual physical. The f- I had the day, I had the week of Thanksgiving off. And oh boy, I'm glad I had the week of Thanksgiving off because it took me until Wednesday night,
Oh,
Thanksgiving morning to kind of start to feel better.
Oh, wow.
oh man, I haven't had it yet, and I'm not sure I want to now.
Yeah.
I mean,
But
I think, because isn't it one of those things that once you take the 2 shingle shots, that's it?
Yeah.
Isn't it? I think.
Yeah, it's a 2 shot.
it is
Yeah.
for the rest of
I
my
think
life.
it's just the 2 and then you're good, but don't quote me on
Oh, because if that's the case, I'm in.
that.
I'll run
I mean,
that.
I have heard shingles is one of the worst things you can have, that my mom had it so painful.
Yeah.
So
I've
painful.
had a
It's like,
couple of, yeah,
Mm.
I've had a couple of buddies get shingles, and they're the reason why I got the shingle shot. I was just
Oh.
surprised when the first shot is easy. I'm thinking the first shot was anything but easy.
Well, when I just got the most recent COVID that you can get,
Okay.
and I had him do it on my left arm, which is not my strong arm, it's my weaker. And man, I tell you, it was sore for days. It just,
Oh,
I mean, but that was it, just sore,
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
grateful that's all it was. But
Yeah.
oh, and Joanne, thank you for responding to is it Kelsey who's in finance?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
about our little guffaw with
Yeah.
I love the gal dearly. You've talked to Jackie. I know she's asked for
Yep.
so much help. She does not like doing the finances. And when she told me that, I
Yeah.
said, well, I can't afford you to take out $300 in one paycheck right now. So
Right.
I'm just gonna have her take out so much for the next 4 months until I retire, and then we
Perfect.
should be break even.
Perfect. Yeah, that's all
Like,
you need.
no, don't
Yeah. Yeah. You
I
just
was
need
not
to get
happy to
that right
start.
plan.
It's like, we need to pay attention to this. When I do sermons or a worship service, I have a checkoff list. Okay, sermon's done, bulletin's done. I called the piano
Yeah.
player. I've
Yeah.
done stuff for the liturgist. Ray's shaking his head.
Yeah.
So I don't forget slides, make
Yeah.
sure that's kind of what I would think you'd want to do here, but
Yep.
yeah.
I
Oh
can't
yeah.
force her to do
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah. I live on checklists. My husband always
Oh,
laughs
I
at
do
me.
too.
I know. Well, that's my mom in me. That's my mom in me.
Yeah. And
But
my
I tell
mom
you
would have
what, without
lists and
him,
lists.
do you do that,
Yeah.
Ray, when you do worship service?
Yeah, I have it in I still use a paper planner. And so
So do
like,
I.
on Monday, I
Me
have all the
too.
things I have to do every single Monday and, you know, carried over to the next day if I didn't get it done.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love paper
And
planners.
yeah,
I
I do
gotta
too.
tell you, we had our kids, we did, of course, with Valentine's Day come up, we did a theme on love, God's love and loving others with these kids yesterday. And we had them do this. We had a paper plate, a small paper plate where we punched out holes in the shape of a heart and gave them yarn, and they wound it through and made like a little heart, and then they decorated it however they wanted. And I recommended, leave a little bit of at the start, leave a little bit of a tail. So at the end we can tie a bow. And they're going, a bow. Most of these kids didn't know how to tie a friggin' shoelace bow. I turned to them, I said, you don't know how to they're like, no, can you help me with
Bunny
it?
ears.
Oh my gosh. Velcro, I guess, is the,
I guess so.
Yeah.
oh my stars. I was like, and these are little kids. I mean, this is like first grade to sixth grade.
Wow. That was one of my fun moments with my kids, was teaching them how to tie their shoes. Right?
And the
Tie their
excitement of
shoes,
getting
ride
it
a bike.
done. Oh my
Oh
gosh.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
but this is what it's like. Velcro shoes now, they're digital clocks, so you can't tell time.
Yeah.
Laptops or cash registers give you what the change is supposed to be back.
Yeah.
You don't, it's, oh my God.
I
Woo!
remember back in the day, I worked at the local grocery store, and I wanted to go to the farm stand department with the fruits and the vegetables because I didn't want to have to learn how to count the money back. It was confusing to me, it's like, and then 10 is 20. It's like, but you're not giving them. Can I just go stack apples, please? And
I can
they
do that. I can do that.
they granted
Oh
me
my,
that up. Yeah, it'll be easier for everybody if we just have Todd go stack the fruit.
Well, I think everybody should work at a fast food place. I worked in a McDonald's when I was younger, and it is not as simple as it looks. As far as, they think it's a brain dead job. Well, some of them make it that way, but it's like work in those kind of places so you can get that idea of how those things, but they all want these 6-digit jobs right out of college. It's like, come on. Oh, that's why I probably don't have children, I imagine.
Well, I tell them what my first salary was, and they went, "You lived on
Right.
that?"
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
What was your first job?
going.
What was your first job?
So my background is exercise physiology, exercise science.
Oh,
So
cool.
I went and I worked for a long time with people with disabilities and physical activity, and a couple of research studies and things like that. So, but my first job was at a sister club of where I had my internship, and it was 16,800. That was January of 1990.
Wow.
And I said, "Well, I'm still going to go to school. I'm going to school full time." It was only 3 classes, but
Yeah, but still,
3 classes. Yeah, for grad school it was only 9 credits, or 8 or something. But yeah, I tell them that, and they're like, "How'd you live on that?"
You did.
Well, you balance
Yeah,
your
that-
checkbook every month, and
My
Yeah.
first my
yeah.
first job was working at Simonson's lumberyard, and
Oh,
driving the
Oh.
delivery truck, taking truckloads of lumber out to construction sites. My apartment cost $200 a month. I couldn't afford a phone. I didn't have any health insurance or anything like that.
Yeah.
And there was always more month than money.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
that's why I decided to go to school, because it was just obvious to me I was not going to make it on that pathway.
school meaning college or seminary?
College.
College, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was one of those right from high school, went right to college, and my first job out of college was with a music retail company, which I loved because music's my degree. But 19,000, yeah. I was like, I tell kids that and they're, no, what?
Yeah. How many hours a
Oh my
week?
God. And then you look, with retirement and going back to Sioux Falls, that's my hope is I haven't paid rent since 2011. So that was a shock to the system.
Yeah.
Big shock to the system. Ray, what are you going to do? Where are you going to go?
Well, Sarah's going to keep working in Fargo.
Okay.
So we'll get an apartment here, and then we have a home over near Park Rapids. Our mailing address is a small town called Nevis, and that's on a lake. We own that house with our sister-in-law. She owns 50%. We own 50%. So that's the eventual retirement plan.
That's fabulous.
Mhm.
There's Ron.
Jan, are you retiring in Puerto Lavaca?
He's somewhere, I guess.
Where are you, Ron?
Puerto Vallarta.
Puerto Vallarta.
Jan is, yeah.
That's
Dan's in-
me, yeah. Yeah, I'm in Puerto Vallarta. I'm not retiring here. I wish I was, but not. We have daughters in the Twin Cities area, so we're gonna do apartment life somewhere in Eden Prairie is what we're looking at.
Okay.
What about you, Ron? You got any plans?
Yes, I'll plan to retire in Sioux Falls.
Okay.
Yeah, thumbs up from Laura. Are you gonna come back to Sioux Falls? Are you?
Yes, I am. Yes, I
Well,
am.
that'll be good to have you, to see you.
I was going to move closer to my niece who lives in New Hampshire because my sister eventually will be there, but man, cost of living there is so much higher. So much higher.
Yeah, I'm sure
Property
it is.
taxes, sales tax, all that. Just
Rental,
rental.
apartment rental, yeah. Really high.
Well, Sioux
Beautiful,
Falls is
beautiful,
closer than Hettinger.
Huh?
Sioux Falls is closer to New Hampshire than Hettinger.
That's true.
That's awesome. Excellent. It looks like we've got everybody back. So we could continue. I pulled up the agenda. I had an agenda. Let me, so we're right here. So we're actually on time. We've got UMPIP. We'll just run a little bit of Compass, life stage retirement income. We do quite a bit there. Housing allowance exclusion. That's fun. That's tax break. And then we'll talk about some participant resources, including the projection. And then I'd like to do a real quick demo. And then we'll do a demo of the benefits access account, just so you see what it looks like. And then we'll do a wrap up. We'll do a VIA presentation for about a half hour. That'll cover the retiree medical. So everybody good?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. UMPIP. So this is where your contributions have been going. It's actually a DC or a defined contribution plan. And as such, it will take contributions from employers and participants. So UMPIP is my plan. So that's where my employer contributions go. And then my contributions also go into UMPIP. Take a look to make sure you're contributing at least that 1%, so you get that match. The limits we'll talk about in a slide or two. The limits, they got a little crazy with the limits. They kind of divided it out a little bit, and each year the IRS index up the total contribution that you could provide, the type of total contribution you can provide. So I'll talk about those in just a second or two. But with UMPIP, it's an account balance. And what we've learned about the account balance is, because it's an account balance, you don't need to take a distribution. You're not forced to take a distribution the July 1 you retire. So you have the ability to start that monthly distribution, start that distribution at any point in time from retirement and beyond, up to that required minimum distribution age. While you're in active service and also in retirement, you can use life stage investment management to manage those contributions, or you could self-manage. Okay. About 80% of the people eligible or that are participating in UMPIP are using life stage investment management to manage those funds and to manage the funds and those contributions across, that whole spectrum of employment. So here is the new list for 2025. I think it's, well, there might be a couple people under 50 on the phone. I'm well past that. I'm actually getting close to, I've got to wait a year. So if you're under 50, the contribution limit is 23,500. And that contribution limit, 23,500, is made up of two kinds of contributions, a before tax and a Roth. So both of those contributions can be up to 23,000 if you're under 50. If you're between 50 and 59, you get an additional 7,500 in catch-up contributions. So you can contribute a total of 31,000 for 2025. What will those limits be in 2026? Only time will tell. Some of this will likely go up. I was surprised when they proposed these limits all broken out like this, because it used to be, if you're above 50, you had the catch-up. If you were below 50, you didn't have the catch-up. But now there's a super catch-up. So if you're between 60 and 63, you can contribute an additional $11,250. They call that the super catch-up. So now you're at $34,750. And you could do that until 63. At 64, it comes back down to 31,000, which is the same amount from 50 to 59. So I'd like to do a little bit more reading. I'm a curious person. I'd like to know why. It seems like it would be easier just to let that run out until retirement age. But that's what the contributions look like. Before tax and Roth are the two most common types of contributions. Before tax is just that. Those contributions are made before you pay your taxes. A Roth contribution, those were added probably about 7 or 8 years ago. And these are Roth 403B contributions, as opposed to a Roth IRA contribution. There's some similarities, but they don't play well together. So you can't roll in a Roth IRA into your UMPIP account, but you can roll a traditional IRA in, okay? The Roth contributions grow tax deferred until you take a distribution. And if you meet both of the distribution criteria, then that might actually be a tax-free distribution. Tax-free is good. So here's UMPIP. So if you're making $1,000 a paycheck, you contribute 10%, you'll get taxed on 900 instead of 1,000. So before tax contributions lower what you pay in taxes in your current year. Those contributions grow tax deferred until you take a distribution. When you take that distribution in retirement, that will be taxed as ordinary income. Okay. Retired clergy, however, have that housing allowance exclusion, which allows you to exclude income from federal taxes. That's a wonderful tax break. We'll cover that more later. I would say the vast majority of those individuals contributing to UMPIP are doing it on a before tax basis. The next most common would be the Roth. So a Roth contribution is a form of after tax. So let's say your paycheck's $1,000, and now after all the taxes, your take home is $850, and you're putting in, let's make it easy, let's say $100. So now you're putting in $100 into your Roth account in UMPIP. So now instead of $850 would be your take home, now it's $750. But that $100 Roth contribution is growing tax deferred until you take that distribution in retirement. And if you're 59 and a half years of age or older, and your first contribution was made at least 5 years before you began taking a withdrawal, then that distribution is tax-free. Okay, so it's a wonderful way to basically plan your taxes in retirement. A third way to contribute would be through a rollover. So the IRS allows the plans to be portable, and those IRS qualified plans are typically a traditional IRA, a 457B, a 401k, and a 403B. So most of those likely sound familiar. 401k, 403B, 457B is a government plan typically. Those plans are portable, meaning you can bring them with you. A couple summers ago, I moved my retirement plan from UIC into University of Illinois Chicago. Sorry. I moved that into my UMPIP by filling out an incoming rollover form. It's really just a one-page document, and then Westpath does all the work. So they work on getting the money moved over. So now there's less for me to look at. Let's see. If you are interested in learning more about incoming rollover or rollovers, we could talk about it in the consultations. EY is also another great resource on that, and I'll show you where the incoming rollover form is when we look at the demo. If you're contributing the 31,000 plus and you have more to contribute, you can actually continue to contribute on an after-tax basis. In 24, I think the total amount was 69,000. I don't know what that amount is for 25. It's likely higher than 69,000. So that's if you have maxed out your before tax and Roth, maxed out the catch up, you can contribute up to, I think it's 71,000 for 2025. And the difference there would be the after-tax contributions. So I've never met anybody that was doing that. I wish I was their dependent that was doing that. I would need a couple part-time jobs in order to contribute that much money. So that's before tax, after tax, Roth, and rollover, the 4 ways to contribute to your UMPIP account. So with Compass, just real quick, Compass, as a soon-to-be retired clergy person, you will have no impact at all. So if you're retiring this July 1, your credited service will go through June 30th of 2025. If you retire, let's say July of 2026, you'll use the 2026 DAC. And if you're in active service, that DAC will continue to grow until you retire. Once you retire, then that will be the DAC for the year. And that DAC is what will be used in that formula calculation. But you'll keep all the benefits that you've accrued. For active clergy, it will look just like the individuals who had MPP and then transitioned into CRSP. So come December of 25, CRSP will be essentially put to rest. No additional monies will be put in, and no additional service from clergy will be accrued. But that benefit will be there for you when you come back. When you begin that benefit, I should say. There's 3 types of contributions to UMP to Compass. Actually, Compass is the first plan that's not an acronym. So I love that fact. So the 3 contributions, there'll be $150 per month flat dollar contribution. That's for all clergy. And that amount will get indexed up 2% per year in $5 increments. So that means that in 2026, the 150 will get multiplied by 2%. And then I think that's about like $152. So then for 27, it'll still be $150. Beginning in 28, they'll take $152 multiplied by 2%. And then that will become the new benefit amount, the new flat dollar amount. Does that make sense? So flat dollar contribution begins at 150, will get indexed up 2% per year in $5 increments. So the design for that, it's designed to help lower income clergy, lower paid clergy. The pay dependent contribution, that 3% of compensation, as soon as I see that 3%, it rings the bell. That's like CRSP DC. So you get 3% of your compensation automatically. And when we talk about compensation for Compass, that includes the housing allowance of 35%, not 25%. So that there will also help provide additional monies for lower paid clergy. And then a matching contribution, it's $1 for dollar up to 4%. So a clergy person puts in 2%, they'll receive a 2% match. They put in 4, they'll get the full 4%. They put in 6, that's great, they'll still get 4. Okay, so that's how those matching contributions work. There's also a provision for paying a qualified student loan. So it's either the clergy person's spouse, or even a dependent. So the monies that they're paying back on that student loan will count toward that matching contribution. And there'll be a process to self-certify for that. In retirement, the retirement will use life stage retirement income. So the same payment calculator that can be used for UMPIP and CRSPDC, that same earnings distribution algorithm will be used to manage the payment from Compass. And just like with CRSPDC and the other account balances, you can include a optional Social Security bridge. You can also purchase the optional longevity income protection. Both of those are interesting scenarios, and you can have conversations with EY or even your financial planner on, will one of these or will both of these benefit you? Compass is an account balance, so any remaining balance will be passed to beneficiaries upon the clergy person's passing. So that's Compass. We like to throw this slide in there just to, this is kind of an illustration of the two ways to invest with WestPath. On the left or the right here, we have the self-manage. That means that you pick your funds, you determine the funds that the funds that your allocations go into each month. In this picture, it is suggesting that you can actually have a conversation with EY. So they'll actually do a consultation with you to help organize your funds and figure out a path. The other option, of course, would be to use life stage investment management. Currently, 80% of the folks that are in UMPIP are also using life stage investment management.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
The UMPIP, so that's an option, and do a lot of retirees do that still? Contribute into the UMPIP after retirement?
Yes. You're not able to continue to contribute in UMPIP unless you're working for a church or an entity that is sponsoring UMPIP.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So if you retire, but then you work extension ministry or you work at a church that's sponsoring UMPIP, you're collecting a paycheck, and that means that you can continue to contribute to UMPIP.
Okay. So no otherwise. Okay.
Correct. Yes. So life stage investment management, it actually personalizes your defined contribution accounts. So it will also look at that asset allocation each quarter. So at the conclusion of a quarter, let's say one area, let's say US equities grew by 8% in your portfolio, but it's only supposed to be 5% in your portfolio. It will sell that 3% and then redistribute that into the other funds. So it will automatically rebalance. So it'll keep one fund or one sector having too much weight in your portfolio. So that'll happen in active service and also in retirement as needed at the end of every quarter. And if you were to compare portfolios that were created by LifeStage, each of them are different because we're all unique, and it uses your age, expected benefit commencement date, your risk tolerance. So you could set it to moderate, conservative, or aggressive. And then it'll also take into account if you're receiving Social Security benefits or you're eligible for other WestPath benefits. So that's kind of the magic, or that's the ingredients on how those funds are chosen. You can always go into your benefits access account to see your life stage investment status. Are you currently in life stage? If you have MPP, your MPP balance is managed by life stage investment management, but you can opt in to have CRSPDC and your UMPIP managed by it. If you just signed up for it, but you didn't complete the portfolio, then it will default you as moderate risk tolerance, begin benefits at 65, and that you're eligible to receive Social Security benefits. Make sure that you're making those choices, because then that way it's customized to you, as opposed to maybe getting kind of close with the default. And I'll show you where you can go check that as well. That'll be part of our demo. And then here's just an example of the rebalancing. Before the rebalance and then after the rebalance. So you can see the percentages are a little bit different after the rebalance. So that's a terrific feature. Another terrific feature is the moving out of equities and more into bonds the closer you get to retirement. Historically, stocks have provided higher rates of return over time, but with higher rates of return, there's also typically higher risk that's taken. As we get closer to retirement, there's less time to make up for those dips. My daughter just set up she got her first real job a year ago. She set up her 401k and did all the allocation and all that. And she's like, Dad, I'm a conservative investor. And it said 90 stocks, 10 bonds. Why is that? Well, because you have 45 years to enjoy the risk for it to go up, and then 45 years to make up for any blips coming down. As you get closer to your retirement age, there's less of an opportunity to make up for those dips in the market. I thought that was pretty funny. She did end up switching to moderate, which didn't really change the stock mix at all. The power of youth. Westpath.org has a ton of information. You can look at all the daily values, the daily changes. All the funds are traded daily. So if it's equity or a bond fund, they're all traded daily. There's comprehensive fund descriptions. There's comparative results to look at. I actually like, every once in a while, like to go in and look at the stocks that are owned by the U.S. equity fund. Last I checked, there was like 2,486 stocks that were owned, and included regional favorites. If you've come to Chicago, Portillo's hot dogs. And then if you're East Coast, Nathan's. So they're in there too. So I kind of looked for all my favorite foods. Some are in there. But it's huge. It's the U.S. equity fund is over 6 billion. International equity fund isn't. It's still $1 billion or $2 billion. Both are very diversified, large, medium, and small cap companies across multiple sectors. I early on in my career as a benefit educator, I printed the PDF of the funds for the U.S. equity fund. It was 45 pages. That was a waste of paper that I regret. So I warn folks, don't print, you can look. So in retirement, so in active service, those contributions, your contributions go into your UMPIP account. You can decide how it's invested. You can self-manage, or you could use life stage investment management, which makes those choices for you. In active service, life stage investment management will manage that account balance. In retirement, which is what we're saving for, you have pretty much the same opportunity in taking the money out. So the cash installments is that monthly distribution. You could think of that as replacing your paycheck. So each one of these retirement plans is helping to replace a portion of your income. So you could set up a cash installment that'll arrive on the second to third business day each month in your bank account. And with the cash installments, you get to decide how you're going to receive it. You can use life stage retirement income. That's that payment calculator. Calculates a payment in the safety zone, kicks the ball right down the middle of the field goal, right down, yeah, in the middle of the field goal. And then with a goal of it increasing each year. So each November, Westpath will run the new payment. We'll notify you in December, and then that new life stage payment would begin January 1. Or you could self-manage, and self-manage just means that you tell Westpath how much. And I've had clergy say, "Oh, Todd, life stage told me I could get $2,500 a month. I only need $1,500." So, okay, how do you know you only need $1,500? And they counted out their bills. Oh, I only have 1,000 in bills, and that 500 would give me, spending money. Okay, that's great. So if life stage retirement income is a big number, bigger than what you need, you can always self-manage and just put in what you need and then make a change. You can always adjust that payment from your account balances as needed. You can also take a full lump sum so you can roll it out. You could take a partial lump sum, maybe fix the roof, maybe get a new dock. I heard somebody with a lake house. But a partial would be, 5 or 10,000. A full lump sum would be rolling it all out. And when we hear about those stories, we like to caution for two things. One, understand if you're going to lose the housing allowance exclusion with that money. So the housing allowance exclusion in retirement is with your relationship with your annual conference. And that housing allowance allows you to exclude money because it's written into the tax code. That tax code says that you need to receive money from, excludable money comes from a church plan. So if you roll it into another IRA or to another source, Fidelity or Fisher, I just said those because you see those on the news all the time or TV. That money might not be excludable because it's no longer coming from a church plan. So you should have that conversation with your financial planner, and EY can also be a definitive source for that. And then the other piece is you want to understand if that distribution is taxable. So if you move it from UMPIP, it's a retirement plan, into an IRA, it's another retirement plan, that likely isn't a distribution. But a couple summers ago, I had a conversation with a clergy person who had a smaller MPP account, and she was just going to roll it into her bank account. I'm just going to roll it out. Okay. What were you planning on doing with the money? She said, "Oh, well, I'm not sure yet. I just want to roll it out, get it done, and then I'll make a decision." I was, well, that's likely taxable. So have a conversation with EY, because if it's fine where it's at. If you are waiting to make a decision until later, you can always make that decision later and roll it into something that's not taxable. So she had planned on just rolling it into her checking account. So it's important to know what that looks like. UMPIP is also subject to required minimum distributions, and that RMD brochure right there will take you to that actual brochure, that QR code. And like with all of the account balances, any remaining balance upon the beneficiaries or upon the clergy person's passing, that account balance is transferred to beneficiaries. Okay. That covers the plans. Are there any questions about CRSP, MPP, UMPIP, and then Compass? Excellent. So a quiz. Starting January or this July 1, if you're retiring, you're required to begin a distribution from MPP. True or false? Well, We'll make it semi-easy. What do you think?
I think it's false.
False.
Agreed.
That's
Agreed.
correct. That is correct. I was going to say that's true. The false is true. Sorry, you are correct. You don't have to commence a benefit that you don't want to. So you can decide what to begin and how. And with CRSPDB, as long as you're normal retirement, there isn't a reason not to take it, because we still use the information. We still use the DAC in the year you retired. We still use the formula. We still use the years of service. And in retirement, the years of service doesn't accrue. So that benefit doesn't get any bigger. Except if you're retiring early. If you retire early, you'll have that reduction. If you delay taking the DB, the defined benefit, that reduction decreases each month. Okay. So let's chat about spending retirement right. We heard a lot about life stage investment management. So now, without further ado, this is life stage retirement income. Life stage retirement income's brother. They're related. They're brother, sister, they're brothers, they're sisters, whatever the relationship. But they're two siblings that get along. So life stage retirement income has actually won some financial awards. And it won some awards based on its design and what it does and the features. And we'll talk about all of those ad nauseum. Isn't that a great word? So life stage retirement income will calculate a payment for you in that safety zone. Okay. When you use life stage retirement income, the money that's in the life stage retirement income payment will be managed by life stage investment management. That's how they get along. That's how they work together. And the goal is to provide monthly payments for a participant and survivor's lifetime. There's a modeling tool that is, so everybody that is eligible to retire and at least 62 has the ability to go in and look at the modeling. I believe everybody is set up to retire this July 1, so that should be set up in your account as well. So what that modeling allows you to do, it allows you to see how that monthly distribution changes based on your choices in the program. So real quick, it was originally designed to calculate that payment for you. Originally, it would calculate that payment based on your full balance. So let's say your full account balance is $500,000. It would base that payment off of $500,000. Now it's gotten a little more sophisticated. You can actually determine how much of your account balance you want to include in that payment, in that monthly payment. So if you have 500,000 as an account balance, you could say, oh, I only want 450 put in there. That other $50,000, you can self-manage that, or you can use life stage investment management, and that money is there for you when you need it. So you can go in and grab another, you can get a lump sum, say that's set up for a new roof. Let's say some money was set aside for a vacation and maybe helping with the kid's wedding. So that money would then just sit there until you need it. You're able to go in and get it. Let's say, oh, we're going to move. We don't need to do the house. We don't need to do the roof. So you could actually move that money back into your life stage payment. So you've got flexibility. And then when you take distributions, you have flexibility and choice. And that's the common theme with the account balances. And that's also a common theme with life stage retirement income. You have choices, and that modeling tool will help you land on what those choices look like and the choices that you're comfortable with. There's no direct costs to participants. It doesn't cost you anything when you opt in or if you opt out, and you can. In 2022, in the spring of 2022, 2 additional features were added: the Social Security Bridge and then the longevity income protection. So these 2 at the bottom here. That Social Security Bridge allows you to get money from your life stage retirement income payment so that you can delay taking Social Security. So instead of taking Social Security, you'll get what your Social Security amount is from your life stage retirement income, allowing that Social Security benefit to grow. So each year you delay taking Social Security beyond full retirement age, that benefit goes up by about 8%. My FRA, full retirement age, is 67. So if I delay it until 70, my benefit will be about 24% bigger. But between 67 and 70, I've got to eat, right? I've got bills, I've got responsibilities. So what that Social Security Bridge is designed to do, it's designed to give you what you would have received from Social Security from life stage. Once Social Security begins, then the amount you're receiving from life stage retirement income will get decreased or leveled down. Okay. And I have a graph that I think does a really good job of explaining both of these optional features. The second optional feature is the longevity income protection. And sometimes we'll call this a deferred annuity or a QLAC, qualified longevity annuity contract, or a deferred annuity. That makes sense to me because you'll actually purchase that the July 1 that you retire. And then that benefit, that monthly payment, will begin when you turn 80. So there's some pros and some cons. Okay. One of the pros is it's guaranteed income that begins at 80. It's a life in 70 for married clergy. So that's additional monies that'll come in starting at 80. We see you on Good Morning America. You're 120 years old. You're running your New York City Marathon for the 20th consecutive year. Let's make it grandiose, right? You'd still be receiving that payment. The downside is there's no COLA. And it's if you or your spouse don't reach 80, then you wouldn't realize that benefit. EY is a wonderful resource to kind of help walk you through that. And Reverend Kidd, when you were talking about making a list and checking those off, that's kind of like the retirement checklist because all of those items are on there, and you could probably even expand it to say, should I look at longevity income protection? What does that look like? That's a great conversation for EY. The Social Security Bridge, what does that look like? Should I consider that? And when I think about making those choices, I think about creating that list and just going through and having conversation after conversation with EY to make sure I'm comfortable with what it looks like. So I would encourage you, if you're interested in longevity income protection, that's a wonderful call to have with EY. And same thing with the Social Security Bridge. So here's how it works. So this life stage payment includes what you would be receiving at Social Security and the life stage retirement income payment. So let's make it easy for Todd. Let's say your Social Security Bridge or your Social Security payment at full retirement age is $1,500. Then the life stage retirement income payment coincidentally was another $1,500. So that means this life stage payment right here in the teal is $3,000. And that's if you have MPP annuity, that's another payment coming in. CRS PDB, that's another payment coming in. So this life stage would be just for the Social Security bridge and the cash account distribution through life stage retirement income. Then at 70, Social Security begins. The amount you're receiving from Social Security is leveled down, and now Social Security comes in, and it's bigger because it grew. It grew 24% over that 3-year period of time. The modeling tool actually assigns the money that or the distribution amount that you're receiving for each of these. It's really cool. So when we get into that, I'll point out here you're getting, $1,500. Now Social Security begins. It's now $2,100 because it's 24% bigger. So the modeling tool is really, really nifty. Sorry about that. I channeled my aunt. That is her favorite word, nifty. And then on the right, this is at the age of 80. So now what do we have? We have a small wedge of life stage. So you're still receiving a life stage payment. The longevity income has kicked in, that annuity. That's actually purchased through Pacific Life. So an outside vendor, well-respected life insurance company. And then Social Security is still stacked on top. And that's how those benefits will work. The modeling tool is really cool. I'll show you what that looks like in just a little bit. Does that make sense with the retirement income, calculating a payment, providing an option for a Social Security bridge, and then the longevity income protection? Cool. I'm getting a couple of nods. Excellent. So I will, when we do the demo, it'll even become more clear. So are these three right for you? So do you have any significant health issues? Are you married? Does your spouse have any significant health issues? Longevity. I'm in it for the long haul. I'm hoping to get there, but I have confidence that my wife will. So our financial plan is planning for her longevity, and then maybe she gets a break from me for a little bit. Have you opted out of Social Security? If you've opted out of Social Security, then the bridge wouldn't be available. Are you past Social Security age already? Are you past 70? Is there other significant annuity income or inheritance, spouse's retirement income? All of these will help get pulled together to help land on that guidance from EY. So let's go into RMDs. So the RMD is calculated each year. So if you haven't taken out enough out of your cash balances, you'd be required to meet a minimum distribution. And that's actually calculated. This brochure helps to explain how that's calculated. The account balance is taken into consideration, longevity, the age of the participant, all of that is taken into account. So typically when you start taking RMDs, you'll need to continue to take RMDs. So it's the April 1st after you turn 73. So if you turn 73 in June of 25, your RMD age would be by next April 1st, you need to take the 2025 distribution. But a word of caution, if you delay taking this year's distribution until 26, until next year, you'll also have to take a 26 distribution. So you should take a look at those tax planning for that, and EY can help you with that. So we like to call that out. So it's either 73 or 75, and it's the April 1st after you take it. Or after you turn that age, you'll need to take that distribution by. If you haven't started the other programs like CRSPDB or your MPP annuity, those need to begin at your RMD age as well. Our communications did a great job on this graphic, I think. Born between 51 and 58, RMD age is 73. Born 59 or later, RMD is 75. What I find fascinating is in 2018, the RMD was 70 and a half. And then with the different Secure Acts, it went 70 and a half to 72 to 73 or 75. They keep pushing it down the street, which I like. Each year, WestPath will give you a 1099-R, and that will show what you received from WestPath, and it will show any withholdings, federal tax withholdings on those distributions. When you select your benefits to begin MPP annuity or life stage retirement income, there's a step in that selection process that allows you to ask WestPath to withhold federal taxes, or you could say, no, I don't want WestPath to withhold federal taxes. So that might be something that you have a conversation with your tax person to see if you should have taxes withheld or if you'll just continue to pay quarterly. So that's for the monthly. You get to choose if you want WestPath to withhold federal taxes on your monthly distributions. If you're taking a partial or full distribution, WestPath is required to withhold 20%. That's effectively prepaying your taxes for that. So WestPath has to withhold 20%. That amount shows up on your 1099-R, including any amount that you have withheld for the monthly distributions. If you don't touch your money until RMD, so let's say you're taking an RMD, WestPath is required to withhold 10% on RMDs. Same format. If it's an RMD, WestPath withholds 10%. That amount will show up on your 1099-R. Does that make sense? Initial benefits processing. So for those retiring this July 1, congratulations. Your first monthly payment will arrive approximately July 7th. And the reason why I can be so ambiguous at this point is because WestPath typically takes 3 business days to set everything up and double check everything. And then our July 4th holiday, which is awesome to have a break in early July, but that also kind of gets into the mix as far as business days. So we typically push it back to say your first payment will be on or around July 7th. However, starting in August, the monthly payments, you'll have 2 monthly distributions. The first distribution, the annuity payment, CRSPDB or MPP annuity, those will arrive together on the first business day of the month. The cash installments will arrive on the second or third business day of the month. So no need to run down to the mailbox. They'll arrive in the bank accounts, in the bank account you designated when you set the benefit up. And you'll have 2 different payments. If you have the annuities coming in, if you started those, and distribution from UMPIP or life stage, then that'll come second or third. That makes sense? So on to the housing allowance exclusion. So this is a wonderful tax break. You shouldn't feel bad that it is a tax break. It is my colleague Frank likes to say tax advantage. I think a tax break resonates more. At least it does for me. So this means that you're allowed to exclude income that you receive from WestPath from federal tax. How much? That depends. Not only is every retirement different, I would say every housing allowance exclusion amount is different. I should have included the housing allowance worksheet on the email that I sent you. And it looks like an IRS form, but it's actually a form that Westpath put together. And if you print it out, I printed it out, it came out as 2 pages because my printer's not sophisticated, but you should be able to get 1 page front and back. And the first introduction talks about what it is, what it's about. And then you'll see that there's a number 1, a number 2, and a number 3. And those are the 3 scenarios that you'll go through each year to determine how much income you can exclude from federal taxes. And it's the least of these 3 scenarios. So the first one is easy because that is determined each annual conference. So it's the amount designated as the housing allowance that generally comes out of annual conference. And I've only heard of annual conferences passing it as a percentage and passing it as 100%. So it's written something like you can exclude 100% of what you receive from Westpath. Okay. You'd want to get a copy of that journal to indicate that, because you want to keep track of all 3 of these scenarios for each year, should the IRS come ask how you landed on that number. The second scenario is the amount you actually spent for housing. And I should say this is for your primary residence. And that amount that you actually spent in housing is listed under, all the different buckets are listed under item 2. Rent payments, mortgage principal payments, mortgage interest payments, real estate property taxes, maintenance expenses, utilities, that's a big one, furnishings, homeowners association, homeowners insurance, all of those expenses to live there. And then you would just total that up. And then the third one is the fair rental value of your home, including furnishings and utilities. And I've heard clergy using a local real estate person or a local appraiser. What they would provide would be a comp letter. So they would justify what your home would rent for by comparing your home to other homes that are currently being rented. Does that make sense? And you could update that letter based on their advice, their guidance. Is the housing market going up? Is the housing market going down? Yes, Reverend Baker?
I'm just wondering on what if your house is paid for? Can you still deduct the other expenses that you mentioned?
Absolutely. And I'm happy that you brought that up. So in my house, the biggest thing is my mortgage payment. Right. So if I didn't, once I pay my house off, woohoo, that's great. But that also would lower, I'm not clergy, but that would lower my housing allowance significantly. But for you, you still have Windex, paper towels. So maybe you're more careful on all the cleaning products, all of the furnishings, because you don't have that big ticket item, that big expense of a mortgage payment. So you're still in a great spot. You've got a house that's paid off, but then your furnishings, your utilities, so gas, electric, sewer, water, all that good stuff. And then all the maintenance stuff, gas for the lawnmower, paper towels, Windex, you'd add that up to try to get that number as big as possible.
And that would include you said property tax and utilities would be our 2 biggest areas of expense.
Right. Property tax,
When
utilities.
the house is paid off.
Right. Yeah. And then
Could you also, Todd, could you also include, like if you're doing planting or anything you do for the yard or things of that nature for maintenance purposes?
I would check with EY on that.
Okay.
I haven't been asked that. You could probably make a case under maintenance let's say erosion, or I'm planting these plants because of erosion or something, you could
Yeah.
probably make a case. You would just have to convince our friends at the IRS. And they are friendly. And then, so the fair rental value, I've also heard of clergy going to Zillow or realtor.com. And in that case, you want to document what you saw and why you made that decision on what you're going to exclude. Realtor.com typically doesn't include furnishings and utilities. If you've got a tax person that does retired clergy taxes already, you may have a conversation with them and say, how do I come up with the fair rental value for my home? And I'm sure they've got some guidance for you, whether they know somebody that can help you out, or they may recommend an alternative way to do it.
And if you end up renting, is there a fair rental value? Is it different for rental than it is for having a house?
No, it would still be fair rental value, but with that, you'd also want to include utilities and furnishings. So if you're paying utilities and furnishings, that would go into the cost of living there. If that's baked in, then you wouldn't double count utilities.
Right. Okay.
But rent payments, lease payments, that's an expense. Primary residence, that's excludable. Because what we're looking to do out of these three scenarios, you can exclude the lowest amount. So if the housing allowance exclusion is 100%, fair rental value, let's say, is 50,000, but your home is paid for, and so then you don't have the mortgage payment, you'd want to make sure you keep track of all the other expenses, gas, electric, to build that number up. Because in all likelihood, if you've paid off your house, that might end up being the lowest amount. So if there's things that you could keep track of and include in there, that would be a benefit. So are you ready for some math? It's easy math, just addition and subtraction. This is Todd math. So Reverend Waters received $24,000 in pension. 100% of that was designated as the housing allowance exclusion. So that's right there on the number one line of the housing allowance exclusion. So indicate the amount classified as the housing allowance salary paying unit. 100% received $24,000. Then Reverend Waters spent $20,000 in housing. So that's the utility bills, that's mortgage payments, all of that. Fair rental value, including furnishings and utilities, came out to $21,000. So we know the housing allowance exclusion can't exceed the lowest number. So what we'll do is take $20,000 and subtract it from what you received from Westpath. What's left over is $4,000. So that's the taxable amount. So you go from a taxable amount of $24,000 to $4,000. That's a wonderful tax break. On the back page of the housing allowance exclusion, the last paragraph includes some text that you can include to the IRS when you submit your taxes. And I like to read this because I think in my mind, it kind of summarizes what I just got done talking about. And it does it in a way of talking to the IRS. So it says, I received, and I'm going to use this example, I received $24,000 from the UMC Benefit Board, Inc., as reported by my attached 1099-R. I did not include $20,000 of this amount on line 5B because it has been excluded under the provisions of Section 107 of the Internal Revenue Code. So we're kind of telling them where they can go look, although they probably know that. And that's as the housing allowance exclusion. As a United Methodist clergy person, I'm entitled to take this housing allowance exclusion. So I think that does a nice job of wrapping up what this all is intended to do. The worksheet is intended to put all three numbers together in a convenient place, helps to memorialize it for the future, and also helps to do the math. So the housing allowance is only available to retired clergy. So if it's not transferable to a surviving spouse unless the surviving spouse is also retired clergy, and it's available for primary residents only. I read the note that you can include on the form, and then that conference journal will have the housing allowance exclusion each year. We'll review these just real quick. That there's death and disability benefits in active service, and then there is a death benefit in retiree status. So to be eligible for CPP, has anybody had a conversation with Carrie Percivali? She's the manager at Westpath who manages the Comprehensive Protection Plan, which is CPP. If you've met Carrie Percivali, you could say it's the Carrie Percivali plan, which we tend to do, and everybody has a smile about it. It's mandatory participation for eligible clergy serving full-time with a compensation of at least 25% of the DAC. And if the clergy is appointed half-time or quarter-time, they're not eligible, okay? And so CPP provides death and disability. For the retiree, these slides are goofy. Okay, so for that's for the active clergy eligibility. This is for the retiree death benefit eligibility. So as a retiree, there's a death benefit, and you'll need to be eligible to receive a benefit from CRSP at the time of retirement, and then one or the other, either enrolled in CPP for 12 of the last 15 years, or an active participant in CPP for the last 25. If you're unsure if you're eligible for the CPP death benefit, retiree death benefit, you can contact Westpath Participant Solutions or customer service, same thing. They'll be able to help you with that. And then effective January 1 of this year, the death benefits are now harmonization. For an active participant, their beneficiary would receive $50,000. For a retired participant, their beneficiary would receive $24,000. And then for an active or retired spouse, that clergy person would receive $16,000. For active, retired, surviving spouse, so surviving spouse, that means the participant has already passed. That means the beneficiary of the active or retired surviving spouse would receive $12,000. And then for an active or retired child, there is some qualifications for that as well. It's either 18 or 19 years of age, depending on being in school. But the beneficiary in that case would receive $8,500. So these are the benefits that you don't need to memorize. These are benefits that you would chat about with EY. These are benefits that you would chat about with your financial planner if you have an outside financial planner, because these are pieces that go into that kind of financial plan. Should something happen, what are the steps to take? And these benefits are available in active service and also in retirement. So we can take a look at the benefit projection real quick. So the benefit projection that we ran for married clergy, it was life in 70 and a 2% COLA. For single clergy, it was a single life annuity and a 2% COLA. From the slides, we learned that if we run a projection and increase the COLA, our monthly payment comes down a little bit. To demonstrate that with the projection, we would just have to run multiple projections, and that's not a concern at all. But if you're already set up to select your benefits, you could navigate to that section and look at how those monthly amounts change based on the COLA. And if for married clergy, it will show what single life annuity and joint annuity looks like. And in some cases, clergy have selected that were married a single life annuity. Their spouse had their own retirement plan or retirement benefits. And we saw that the highest monthly payment is from a single life annuity. The spouse needs to sign a document and get it notarized stating that they understand that they're waiving their rights to that retirement income. But sometimes it works. So with the benefit projection, there's actually a couple spots to look at. The upper left-hand corner shows the benefit commencement date, and this shows the date that all of the benefits will begin. Then down below, we have a term that says lifetime income. It might even say defined benefit or annuity, but lifetime income is just that. So that means that the MPP annuity has been annuitized and the CRSP-DB has begun as well. So that is the top. So you'll see a payment associated with the first service period of CRSP-DB, second service period, and then the 65% of MPP. So in this example, it came out to $3,070. So that's a married clergy person. So that's a life and 70 and a 2% COLA. So that amount will go up 2% per year. In the middle section, we have the account balances. That's based off of, and what I asked the projection to do is calculate a monthly payment based off of the account balances. So you'll see ministerial pension plan, 35%. There's a monthly dollar amount to the right. Clergy retirement security program, DC or defined contribution, and then a payment to the right. And then UMPIP, and then a payment to the right. So you'll see that this is the cash accounts providing an additional $1,200, I think $32. And then at the bottom of the third section, it'll say, this slide says 4302. So that's the full monthly benefit. That includes the lifetime income, the DB, the annuity payments, and then that also includes the cash distributions. And then at the bottom, there's a percentage, and this is the estimated income replacement ratio. This is the percentage of your income that you're replacing in retirement. The higher, the better. This number or this percentage doesn't include Social Security. So you can add another 30, 35% on top of that percentage. This example looks like they're replacing 76% of their working income. So in this example, we add another 30% on top of that for Social Security. That means they're earning 100 or they'll receive 106% of their working income in retirement. That's terrific because that provides options. You might not need all 106% of that income. So all you would do is you would decide which you didn't want to start. Maybe you begin it at a lower level. Maybe you take it like it is and the extra you save away. EY would have some great guidance for that as well. There's a link later in the presentation that I encourage you to, and I'll email everyone the link as well, but you could sign up for a consultation with a benefit educator and we could run additional projections for you. Okay. Have I mentioned EY? Has anybody heard of EY? maybe once. So here's their phone number. And then that website is also a great resource. Lots of different calculators, lots of different tax information. You'll also get to see a picture of the financial planner that you get assigned. Some things that you could talk about. How much can you afford in housing? You can help them, they can help you calculate what your housing allowance exclusion would be, because that's part of tax planning. That's part of retirement planning. So they can help with that too. What will your income look like? If you have income outside of the WestPath plans, you can include that in there. Should you choose a higher COLA? Should you choose a lower COLA? How will you secure a down payment for housing? You can actually take a loan from UMPIP and then pay yourself back. And so when you use that money from UMPIP or that loan from UMPIP for your down payment, you can borrow up to $50,000 or half of the account, whichever is smaller, and you could pay it back over 15 years. The interest rate is prime plus 2. The IRS requires that an interest rate get applied, but that money goes back into your account. That money doesn't go to WestPath. So effectively, you're paying yourself back. So you're using the loan to purchase a house, and you're basically paying yourself back. Prime plus 2, I think it's 9.5 right now. 9.5%. There's no prepayment penalty, so if you wanted to pay it off early, you can. You don't have to go the full 15 years. So that's great. Here is the link for the benefit education consultation. You could just plug in westpath.org and then the rest there. If you wanted to take a picture of it, you can. This shows that they have a sense of humor, the communications department. Everybody has looked at this. I can't believe every time it goes through a series of reviews. Okay, so this year 6, they're finally going to take my picture out. They haven't. And I donated the yellow shirt, though. That was a bit awkward, presenting wearing the same shirt that's in the picture. So with the consultations, we send a Teams link. And then at the designated time, we open Teams, you open Teams, we secure the call, and then we share your account. And we're able to walk you through your account, run projections, do the modeling, whatever your questions are. They typically last 30 minutes in length. If we have more to talk about, we can always set up another consultation or 2 or 3. For action planning, I think everybody's registered for benefits access. That would be the first step. But since everybody's registered, the first step I'd like everybody to do is review their beneficiary designations. Make sure those beneficiaries are going to the person. WestPath has to pay out based on the beneficiaries listed in benefits access. So make sure your will, those documents match what's in benefits access. And then take a look at your UMPIP contribution rate, have a conversation with EY about Roth, about after tax, before tax, all those different ways. Can you increase your contribution between now and your retirement date? Would that make a difference? Actually, it would. It'd make a small difference. We could run a projection based on that new contribution amount as well. Here is the WestPath Participant Solutions. We used to have a separate retirement team phone number. They changed how the phones work. So all you need to do is just dial that 851-2200 and then ask for the retirement team. Are there any questions? No? Let me see where, how are we doing? 12:30. Oh, okay. We should, if you wouldn't mind, we could power through the next 45 minutes. I could get through I could do the demo and the VIA quickly, concisely. Does that sound good? I was a little,
I will need to bow out at noon, so.
okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Ron, you and I can touch base about via benefits if you want after later on.
Okay, thanks, Joanne.
And are you able to see my screen? Perfect. So here we have a clergy person. He's getting ready to retire. He's married. He's known as Clergy 5. His wife's name is Janice. So to get to the link with the gentleman with the glasses, we click on retirement, and now we have the titles below show up. Then we click on accounts, and then we go account summary. And then here's the link with the gentleman with the glasses. The link says review and manage your retirement benefits. What's listed below on this page is it'll show your account balances, the funds they're invested in. But for brevity, we'll just go here. So I clicked on the review and manage. And if you wanted to begin all the benefits that July 1, then you could make those choices today and wait for them to take effect July 1. So it's working. It's when we demo the demo, it can be a little slow. When you're on your own website, it'll go, your own benefits access account, it'll go much quicker. So at the top, that's really just another version of that benefit projection, right? On the left, we have the annuity payments. In the middle, we have the life stage retirement income payment. And then on the right, we have the total. So here we've got lifetime income. This clergy person has pre-82, MPP, and CRSP. And then down below, life stage retirement income. And you could set up life stage retirement income. This gets started. If you know how much you need, you can just click that self-managed and you'll enter how much you want Westpath to distribute each month. If you wanted to take a lump sum, you would use that link here. Okay. So if we just go up to CRSP, click get started. We'll come down to, you'll need to select a date. You'll see in the drop-down menu, there's dates that lead out about 6 months. So if you're retiring July 1 and the earliest you could begin that benefit would be July 1. If you put in June 1, it wouldn't process because you're not in retirement status. So that's the first step. The second step is to review the contingent annuitant information. So Clergy 5, the demo person, is married to Janice Clergy 5. So I'm going to say the information is above is correct, and we'll designate her as the contingent annuitant, meaning she would receive the payment should I pass before her. So this is the CRSP DB lifetime benefit. At the top, we're 3 of 7 steps. Here's the life and survivor benefit for the first service period. The single life annuities weren't available for the first service period. That was added in 2012 and began in 2014. So life in 70, that's the default. If we scroll down a little farther, we'll see the COLA. So 479 at a 2% COLA, let's go 5. So 479 to 326, it's about $150 difference. Okay. And you would just pick the annuity that you wanted. Just going to go life and survivor, 100, and a 4% COLA. And then we click. So for those that have the link in their account, you'll be able to see real time how those amounts change. Another important piece, have a conversation with your tax person about withholding that federal taxes on those monthly distributions. As you read through this, it looks like a W-4. So you'll make some choices here on how you want to file. So single or married filing separately, married filing jointly. So your tax advisor can provide some input on that. If you click down here, click here if you don't want federal tax withheld, then you're allowed to skip to the next page. This is where you'll enter the bank account information. We use this account all spring, so somebody's already entered a dummy bank account for Bank of America and bank account and routing number. So you'd enter that and then click continue. Spend more time thinking about the annuity type and the COLA than the actual selection process. It's set up so that you can't get beyond that step unless you've made a decision or you've made a choice. And we're so early, so this is the verification. So these are all the steps, a summary of all the steps that we just did. Okay, so we'll come down here, you'll read through this, check that you did, and then click here. And now it's the confirmation page. And it looks just like, so there, I suggest to print this out. I'm kind of old fashioned. Confirmation numbers, I like to have on hand. So I would encourage you to maybe print this out so you have the confirmation number. And then this looks just like the verification step. So this is completed. When you click review your available benefits, it's going to take you back to the link with the gentleman with the glasses. And what we see here is success. So we see CRSP DB, it's pending. So if we leave it untouched, we'll get a life in 70 and a 2% COLA, or no, 4% COLA come July 1 of this year. Does that make sense? Let's spend a couple minutes taking a look at life stage retirement income. So life stage retirement income, it's a couple step process. The top portion of this page is the worksheet. It allows you to move things around and adjust things. And then the bottom part is where you'll actually review and enroll. So everything that you do up top is designed just to see what the numbers look like and get a handle on what that account balance, what size payment that account balance would generate. So I've used this before, but I like to call it, this is my boss, Martin. So if we click get started here, that's actually a really good video. He explains it better than I do. So if we come up to the provided your social security estimate, just to get different numbers, I'm going to put in 1,500. So here I'm saying my social security benefit at full retirement age will be $1,500. Click submit. Now we're on the MPP 65% options. And our two main options, keep MPP as an annuity or include MPP in the life stage payment. And remember how I said it will give us a payment amount for each of these different milestones? So here at 60, and we kind of have to forgive the age here. This is a young clergy person. So this would be like really at 62, but we're forcing this as a demo. But what we see here is I said keep this as an annuity. So the annuity payment would be about 1106 from 65% of MPP. And then life stage is providing 2276. So in addition to the MPP annuity. Now at 70, my life stage payment dropped from 22 to just 527. Social Security is now 2352. I put in 1500. So that actually increased based on those annual, or technically it's a monthly increase. Each month that you don't take it, it goes up, but it's 8% per year. And then now the MPP annuity is 1334. So that's gone up based on the COLA. At 80, the total income is 5311, and that's made up of a bunch of different payments. 384 from life stage, 290 from the longevity income protection. Social Security is now estimated to be $3,011, and then the 65% annuity would be $1,626. If we say no, include the 65% into life stage, then it changes the number slightly. Okay. Let's keep it as an annuity. And then now we'll go on to the funding stage. And I mentioned this a little bit ago. You have the ability to include your whole account or a portion of your account balance into that life stage payment. And the total cash balance for Clergy 5 is $317,000. And that's what we see right now in the funding amount. And that's generating these payments here, basically down at the bottom. The MPP annuity is separate from that 317. So let's say we're just going to do 275, and we'll keep the difference. So that's 25, 30, what, 43,000? We'll keep $43,000 out of that equation. So now, instead of my payment being $3,382, it's now $3,165. So my life stage payment's a little smaller because I'm including about $50,000 less. At 70, you'll see my payment, my life stage payment went to $252. Social Security is now $2,352, and my MPP annuity has gone up based on the COLA. So you can adjust the amount based on what you need. And then now we bridge Social Security. So with this stage, it's, are you going to use life stage as a bridge or not? So if you wanted to use life stage as a bridge, that's the default. And then here's how these numbers work out. If you said, well, what does that benefit look like if I were to start? What does my Social Security benefit look like? Look at 70 if I start then. So you'll see now that just decreased by about $200. Maybe I want to start it at 68. Okay, so that middle column is moving to the left and the numbers are changing based on receiving it early. Longevity income protection is next. And the monthly payment would be $288.59. That would begin in January 1 of 2045. The cost would be 3% of the account balance, so that would come out to $10,496. At 80, that would generate that payment shown there. They round it up to $289. If you didn't want to include it, include the QLAC, you just click, no, I don't want it. And now it's adjusted those numbers. So still pretty consistent on the life stage. Social Security is consistent. This dropped a little bit, or that went up a little bit. No, that went down a little bit. Life stage actually went up a little bit at 80. It went up to 538 from 420 at 70. So that'll manage the money on the way out. Still plenty of time to kind of work through the amount. So I just clicked review and enroll. Then it provides you a quick summary page. And then you take that information and put it into here. And then once you complete this, this would show pending. Any change of heart between now and June 30th at 3 p.m., you can cancel the transaction and then go back. Any questions? Any concerns? You think it's useful? Clicking on profile or clicking on help will bring you to all the phone numbers and all the forms. Okay, and honest, if once I email everybody, you'll have all my contact information. You could just email me and say, Todd, where's the rollover form? I'll send it to you. Where's the contribution election form? I'll send it to you. But I like to call out that all of that is listed here under help. Under profile, this is where you'll go to review your beneficiaries and then manage or adjust them. You know, kids make great secondary beneficiaries. They also move. And sometimes they change their name. You can do all of that in as self-service, okay? And then your account management summary. This is kind of your area where you go. This is your admin section. And you'll see that you can actually give EY access to view your accounts. That way you don't have to read them to them. You could just grant them authorization. Like right there, I gave them authorization. So yes, EY advisors are able to see. They can't change and they can't adjust things. They can't manage your account. They can only provide guidance, and then you can make the adjustments. Any questions about the demo? I know we went through that kind of quick. I like to encourage folks, you can't break it. Go in and use it. There's still if you go through and you make a choice, terrific. Know that you could still, up to that deadline, change it if you want to. Should we go through VIA real quick? Or should we go really slow? We could do a fast button, or no, this is typically an overview, a beginning of that process. And we like to focus on the vendor, VIA. VIA they're a marketplace. They're not an insurance company. So essentially they work with over 120 different plans, insurance plans, and they will help match you with an insurance plan that fits your financial need and your health insurance need. And to prepare, this is basically what we'll review today. Who is VIA Benefits? I let the cat out of the bag. They're a marketplace. That seems like an odd statement, but they're not a broker, but they work with health insurance companies that provide different types of Medicare coverage. And by the time we're done today, everybody will be an expert in Medicare. How about that for a bold statement? And then we'll talk about just the basics of Medicare, the steps you'll take to enroll, and then that reimbursement arrangement, or the HRA. So who is VIA? And you could see my screen, right? Okay. Who is VIA? They were the first, and they're now the largest private Medicare marketplace. They've helped over 2.3 million retirees from hundreds of different employers. They've been around, I think 18 or 19 years now. Their first clients were Ford, GM, and Chrysler. Pretty complicated, I would think, as your first clients. So they've been around for 18 years. Their name has changed. They're currently VIA. They've been VIA for a while, but they were known by other names, but they've been doing the same great service for 18 years. The experience that we have had, WestPath or HealthFlex has had, is what we see here. So there's 33 different plan sponsors. Dakota's annual conference is one of those plan sponsors. Okay. What I find remarkable is the 33 plan sponsors. We've had over 9,000 eligible retirees begin retiree medical coverage with VIA. And that 9,000 eligible members represents over 1,000 unique plan combinations. So that amount of flexibility, that number of different plans available, one plan sponsor couldn't offer that kind of variety. So that is a strength for VIA, is to have the 120 insurance carriers that offer more than that for plans. The Medigap, Medicare Advantage, which are Part C, Part D, all of that great stuff, they continue to knock it out of the park. So the variety that they have available is pretty remarkable. What you'll need to do to work with VIA is enroll in Medicare. So once you've enrolled in Medicare, you'll need to enroll in Parts A and B. We know that as Original Medicare. Once you enroll, you'll be in Medicare, you'll be given that Medicare number, and it's that Medicare number that VIA will need. But in 5 bullet points, this is kind of your experience with VIA. So you'll enroll in Medicare, then you can work with VIA. VIA will help you find a plan, or in some cases, plans. And having more than one plan isn't seen as a burden. It's seen as adding variety. Medicare is an individual plan. HealthFlex is a family plan. So your spouse, yourself, and dependent children, they'd be on the HealthFlex plan. Medicare working through VIA is individual. So you're married, your spouse will go through the VIA selection process as well. I was chatting with my mom a couple of years ago, and I'm like, Mom, Dad, you guys have the same medical plan for your retiree medical? Do you have the same expenses? My mom was like, wait, no, we could pick different ones? Yeah. VIA will help with that. And then you'll pay the premiums to the carrier. There'll be an automatic process to get reimbursement from your HRA. So you're made whole based on that reimbursement. And then VIA is really available all throughout the year. If you have a question about an explanation of benefits, and one thing I noticed, the explanation of benefits doesn't explain as much as they used to. It seems like there's more guesswork. So when I get one of those, I typically have a conversation with Optum, our call care coordinators. But they're the VIA individuals, the VIA, they're licensed benefit counselors. They're licensed in every state that they work in. They are there for support along the way. Why was I charged this? Definitely, if your medications change, you can update your account because that'll help with the next year's plan selection. So this is the stepwise process from VIA. So there's a consultative process. So you could actually, let's say if you're eligible today to enroll in Medicare, you can enroll in Medicare and then have a conversation with EY, let's say tomorrow. I'm sorry, with VIA. You can have a consultation with VIA tomorrow, and they can take you from your first phone call to having paperwork completed by the end of that call. Now, that's a long phone call, but that's their commitment to you. They will work with you however you want. You could do it all through the phone. You could actually set up an account at VIA. You'd go to via.com. There's a website for it. And then you'd set up your account. You'd add your doctors. You'd add your medicine. And that will help pick your plans. So you set up your account, and then you can have the consultative process. Or if you like to shop online, you can actually shop online for your Medicare plans. It'll identify plans for you based on the information you put in. Are your doctors covered by the plan? Are the medicines covered by your plan? So you can get to the end and buy Medicare like you're buying a pair of shoes off of Amazon. The steps are different, but the action is similar, right? I'm just blown away that you can. It's either way or in between. You can have one phone call and get it done. You can set it up online and get it done, or you can do a combo. Me, I like to talk to people on the phone, so I would probably set up my account and then have a conversation. They will actually take care of the forms for you, so you don't need to even fill out forms. And then down in that corner, that's that ongoing advocacy. They're there to help explain your benefits, help potentially with the glitch or an issue, and then help with the following year's, subsequent year's selection of plans. Does that make sense so far? VIA seems kind of like a nice, friendly company, right?
I have a quick question, if I may.
Sure.
Unless you want me
Sure.
to wait until question and time.
Oh, no, go ahead.
So, I mean, I think obviously most of us have already done part A, on the Social Security part. So when we go in and do the part B, when we're ready to do, when it comes that retirement time, there's going to be that option to choose VIA to talk to them. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, you'll need to get the HRA monies. You'll need to engage. You'll need to enroll in Part B and then go
Okay.
to VIA and basically say, "Ta-da, I'm here." And you
Okay.
could do that with the phone call, or you could do that with setting up your account at VIA online, and then indicating, "Hey, I'd like to talk to somebody." and then you could get connected on the phone. So you really have a number of ways, but you'll need to be enrolled in A and B to work with VIA.
And that can all happen on the Social Security site, on the SSA site.
You'll need to go to VIA through
Oh.
VIA. Yeah.
Okay.
So you
You
can
can
think
enroll
of
in Part B through the Social Security site.
Right.
Yes.
No, but I'm saying once that's done, then I need to go elsewhere to the VIA site and talk to them. Okay.
correct. And I'll show you what that looks like in a GIF.
Okay. Okay. And so Joanne, I remember, I don't know if you remember, like last year when you and Leanna graciously sat down with me and my financial planner about little stuff. You had mentioned that somebody would contact us when it came time to choose a health plan, an health insurance plan. So it's not, so now we need to go and do it?
So I'll be sending your HRA amounts to Westpath, who gives it to Via Benefits, and they'll have
Okay.
that information, and then you'll get with them to pick your supplement. But I think we'll cover some of that here.
Okay. Jumping the gun, sorry.
No, you're
No,
good.
you're good.
Good question.
That's great.
Okay.
That's great. So real quick on the basics of Medicare, we kind of go light on this. So as you know, it's a health insurance plan for individuals 65 or older. It's administered by a couple different groups. So it's administered by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. However, enrollment is typically handled through the Social Security Administration. Okay. Some individuals qualify less than 65 years of age, and those are individuals with end-stage renal disease and ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. But you'll need to be enrolled in both A and B to work with VIA. And this is kind of what it looks like right now, right? So original Medicare is A and B. A is usually automatic, but not always. If you're receiving Social Security benefits, then you'll be automatically enrolled in A. If you need to enroll, you can either go to ssa.gov down here, or you can give them a call. I've also heard that since COVID, the offices have opened back up, and I've heard nothing but great experiences from individuals going to their local Social Security office. So if that's a possibility, don't be worried, don't be scared. I've heard a lot of great stuff about going on site for one of the visits. So this is what your coverage will look like. So up top, we have original Medicare Parts A and B. Well, A and B doesn't cover everything. There's gaps. A covers the hospital, B covers the physician, just in simple terms. And then you'll also need a Part D for drugs. So what the Social Security Administration allows you to do is purchase additional coverage. And that additional coverage will come in one of two forms. The first one that you could do is a Medigap. So that means that you're purchasing additional coverage that will fill in those gaps and basically cover more. If you go Medigap, you'll also need to get a Part D or a drug plan, okay, for prescription drugs. So Medigap is one way to go. The other is a Medicare Advantage. That's also known as Part C. And a Medicare Advantage, Part C, those typically come with a drug plan included. And really, you don't need to worry about all these details because your benefits counselor at VIA will talk about each of these different plans and all the different permutations, okay? For example, some of the plans might include additional coverage like dental or vision or hearing aids or fitness center memberships. They will call that out as well, okay? So at the conclusion of that phone call, you'll have chosen a Medicare Advantage plan, Part C, That typically includes the drugs, prescription drugs. Medicare Advantage replaces your Medicare A and B with that new plan. And the goal is to provide as good or better coverage than A and B. So that's the Medicare Advantage, or is Part C. The Medigap plan fills in the payment gaps with Medicare A and B, and you'll also need to go get a prescription drug coverage. So you might have more than one plan, but you can look at it that your plans are covering you the best. Okay. When that benefit counselor will go through and do the comparison with you and show you the comparison of the plans, their goal is to find prescription drug plans that have your medicines in the lower cost tiers. You know, if you have one drug that's if this drug plan has all of your drugs in the 5th tier, that's the most expensive tier. You'd want to have as many drugs as you can, your prescription drugs, in tier 1, tier 2, because those are lower cost. That licensed benefit counselor they'll take that approach. They'll get all of your medicines. That's why you'll either give them over the phone or you'll input them in your account, but they'll be able to narrow down your plan based on the kind of coverage that you need. And this is just to demonstrate. So this is what we've talked about so far. It's the plans are across the top, Part A and B. If you stay with A and B, you'll purchase a Medigap supplement plan and a prescription drug plan, Part D. If you enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan, that's known as Part C, that will likely come with drugs. Most of them come with prescription drug coverage. So we've got the plans across the top. The insurers, very recognizable. This is just a sampling of them. So AARP, United Healthcare, Aetna, Blue Cross Blue Shield, WellPoint. Even if you don't recognize the name, you can rest assured that VIA has vetted them, they work with them, and they're pleased with their performance. So they're all high quality health insurance plans. So this is what your future coverage will look like. We'll start with Medicare Advantage with prescription drugs first. So Medicare Advantage plans are offered by private insurance companies who've contracted with Medicare to provide plans that are designated to be as good as or better than the original Medicare. Medicare Advantage plans provide an all-in-one plan coverage. They typically bundle hospital medical coverage and most of the time include prescription drug benefits too. They can also provide other benefits not covered by original Medicare, like dental, vision, or hearing aids, or even gym memberships. And we see that in this middle section here. The monthly premiums that you can pay can be quite low, even $0, but there are out-of-pocket costs such as copays, coinsurance, and possibly deductibles associated with each plan. So the more care you need, the more you'll pay. Conversely, the less care you need, the less you will pay. So these plans can save a lot of money when you're healthy, and Medicare Advantage plans place a lot of emphasis on preventative care. Medicare Advantage plans are network-based. That means that they each have their own network of doctors and facilities that will accept the plan. The two kinds of plans or networks are Health Maintenance Organization and Preferred Provider Organization, or PPO. So these are probably common. You're probably familiar with those terms, and you're probably familiar with how they work. But just real quick, an HMO is typically a narrower network, and you'll need to go to doctors in that network. And if you need to go see a specialist, you'll likely need to get a referral from your primary care provider in network, and then go to a specialist that's also in network. Let's see. So are we good with Medicare Advantage? This plan will actually replace your A and B and will likely give you Plan D, Part D, the prescription drug coverage altogether. The other coverage option would be for the Medigap plan. So what you'll do is these plans work with original Medicare to fill in the gaps of the original Medicare coverage. Medigap plans don't bundle coverage, so you'll need a separate prescription drug plan to cover your drugs. While this means that you'll be dealing with two plans and possibly two insurance companies, it also means that you have the freedom, the flexibility to choose separately the medical and drug plans that fit your personal health care needs the best. Standard Medigap plans have no networks, which means that you can see any doctor or go to any facility in the US that accepts patients with original Medicare. There are a few Medigap plans that are labeled select plans, and these select Medigap plans have a defined network. You don't need to worry about that because that's a detail that the VIA benefit counselor will review with you. Okay. These are the policies that we'll see at 40. These are, so 47 different states have lettered policies that look just like this. And they're typically known as single letter names in most states, Plan A, Plan B. Medigap K or Medigap G, as we see here. So most of the states have up to 10 different standardized plans, all known as a particular letter. They all have varying levels of coverage. For example, Medicare Advantage G is considered exceptionally comprehensive. After you pay the monthly premium and the Part B deductible, the Plan G will pay 100% of the remainder of your Part A and Part B medical costs for the rest of the year. It's an annual plan, so it will reset in January. Medigap plans will also be offered through different insurance companies, but the plan will work the same, regardless of the company you select. That is, a Plan L from one insurance company will cover Medicare the same way as Plan L from a different insurance company. The difference in Medigap plans from one insurance company to the other is the cost of the premium, as they each set their own premium price for the Medigap plans. So a bargain price doesn't mean less coverage. The Plan L in a particular state is covered the same way by all the companies offering that plan in that state. Does that make sense? So this is what I alluded to a little bit earlier. So the prescription drug, the prescription drugs will all work pretty much the same way. And there's 5 tiers of copays. And so all of the Medicare prescription drug plans, whether it's a standalone Part D or it's bundled in Medicare Advantage C, have the same basic structure, but they can vary widely in which drugs they cover and what they charge for those drugs. That means choosing a prescription drug plan, a very personal choice, because most people take a different set of drugs than someone else. That's why I was surprised that my parents had the same Medicare Advantage C plan. Things you learn when you know a little bit of information.
Mhm.
So all the prescription drug plans start with a formulary, and a formulary is just the name for the list of drugs that the plan will cover. Each plan can have a different formulary list, and each formulary will divide their prescriptions into separate tiers. The cost that you pay will be determined by the prescription drug company and the tier level they have assigned for your prescriptions. So the lowest cost tier would be tier 1. That's preferred generic. That would be great to get all the medicines in there. That's the lowest cost. Then we move up to non-preferred generic. Then we move up to preferred brands. Then we move up to non-preferred brands. And then in specialty drugs, those are the most expensive. For 25, I'm not surprised. I'm surprised that this isn't all over the news, because I think this is huge. Joanne and I were talking about this earlier today. So in 2025, this is the prescription drug coverage. Catastrophic coverage is at $2,000. So the most you'll spend in medicine will be $2,000 a year. If we start the beginning of the year, you begin in the deductible phase, and you're responsible for the first $590 in prescription drug coverage. Then you'll move into the initial coverage phase. And in this level, you'll pay a set copay depending upon the tier level that the medication has been assigned to by the insurance company. This is very similar to most other prescription drug plans. So you could see it would be great to have all of your medicines here in tier 1 as opposed to tier 5. And in all likelihood, they are, because tier 1 preferred generic would be our blood pressure medicine, our statins, right? And then as you move up, they become more costly and more specific. But your benefit advisor can help you identify a plan that has them in the lowest possible tiers. So once you reach $2,000, once you reach $2,000, that's your out-of-pocket limit, and there's no additional coverage, or there's no additional cost for coverage for drugs for the rest of the year. So that's pretty nifty. Last year, they've been decreasing that donut hole over the last couple of years, and the donut hole is what fit in between initial coverage and catastrophic coverage. But in this year, they've completely absorbed it, and prescription drugs are a lot more affordable this year than in previous years. That's remarkable. As far as enrolling goes, if you've enrolled in Part A and haven't enrolled in Part B, you'll want to do that 3 months in advance of the month you turn 65. So if this is August, I'm going to do my example. So if this is August, July, June, May. You think I could have done that a little quicker. So I can enroll in May. So I'd want to enroll early in that initial period because you want to avoid a break in your health insurance coverage. If you wait until 1 month or even the month of your birthday, that you turn 65, to enroll in Part B, what will happen is there'll be a break in coverage because Health Flex will conclude, your Health Flex coverage, I believe, ends at the end of the month that you turn 65. So you'll want that Medicare coverage to start just as soon as your Health Flex coverage drops off. So by doing that early in that 3 months before you turn 65, you'll ensure that you don't have a break.
But that's if you're not still working full time.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. As long as you're still working full time, or you have credible coverage from a spouse, or you're currently covered because you're working, then you wouldn't have to worry about that late enrollment penalty for Part B. And that's typically 10% more for each full 12-month period for that penalty. But if you're still working, you have credible coverage, that will likely get you out of that penalty.
So then I would not need to enroll in Part B until the 3 months out that I retire. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
I was watching Joanne. She nodded yes. I got it right. Okay, so now working with VIA, it's as easy as this. We prepare, we review, we enroll. So when we prepare, Prepare means if you would like to have that conversation, and just a conversation with the benefit counselor, then gather all your personal information, name, email address, telephone number, all that stuff that you want included in your account. You'll also want to grab your prescription drug details, dose, name, is it generic, is it brand name, and then the frequency of each of those medicines, because that will determine how frequent and the cost. The Medicare ID number you'll get on your Medicare ID card. Okay, so once you've enrolled in Part B, you'll get that Medicare ID number. So you'll want to gather and then you'll also want to gather your doctor's information, where they're located, and all of that. Makes it more complicated when your doctors are also getting ready to retire when you retire. So it might be a good idea to have a conversation with your doctors on what their plans are, so that you can transition. If you know they're going to retire next year and you're moving into via Medicare, you'll want to make sure that you've got somebody identified that can take their place. So prepare, just gathering all of your information. And then review.
Todd, I just want to let you, I have to leave, but my wife Sarah is still here.
Oh,
So
perfect.
she'll listen until
Yeah.
the end.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. So once you've prepared, you can call up VIA and get started with that licensed benefit counselor conversation. Or you can go in, create your own account, and then have that conversation with a licensed counselor. If you are so inclined, after you've set up your account, you can actually go in and shop. And this is a snapshot of what that shopping looks like. It allows you to search and compare plans side by side based on drug coverage, out-of-pocket cost for premium, all of those important details. So that's available online. If you wanted just to have that conversation with the benefit counselor, you can. All of the benefit counselors are located in the US. It's either Texas, Arizona, and Utah. They are licensed and certified by the state that they're doing business in. They don't make money based on what they sell you. They get paid a salary. So they're not pushing you to a plan that benefits them. They're showing you a range of plans and what those options look like and what their costs look like. Okay. So they're trying to personalize something specifically to you. And for married clergy, when your spouse retires, they'll do the same thing for your spouse as well. Next up, you'd enroll. So if you're talking to them online or talking to them on the phone, you can have that full conversation, and in all likelihood, they'll be able to complete the paperwork for you. If you are shopping online, you can actually pick your plans, and in most cases, complete that transaction with just a couple clicks of the button and reviewing the materials. There are plans where you might have to speak to a benefit counselor to make that registration process go through. But if that's the case with the plan you chose, you'll be prompted. It'll say, oh, you've selected this plan. In order to enroll in this plan, you'll need to have a conversation with a benefit counselor, and it'll prompt you to set up an appointment, time and date. And then they'll give you a call at that time and date, and then they'll be able to complete the transaction. Okay. All year long, you're able to access your VIA benefits account. You're able to go in, shop and compare. You're able to look at different costs of things. If you have a new prescription, last year my doctor changed a medicine. So you can update that new prescription in your account So that will be taken into consideration when you enroll for coverage next year. Okay, so easy process. I'm just going to go back real quick. Prepare, gather all your stuff, review, have a phone call, or embark on that online. And then to enroll, you can enroll over the phone or you can enroll online. In most cases, you'll be able to complete that enrollment process without a phone call. But rest assured, if the plan you picked, you'll need to have a phone call with a benefit counselor. You'll be able to set the time and date that works for you, and they'll give you a buzz to get that completed. So it's a relatively easy process. So the health reimbursement arrangement, it's actually the type of the account is in the name, reimbursement. So that means you pay and then you get reimbursed. And Dakota's annual conference will be making an annual HRA contribution to your HRA account. So you'll have a new HRA account that WestPath will open up for you. And those dollars will be placed, those HRA dollars will be placed in that HRA account. Okay. And you could use that for eligible premiums, out-of-pocket expenses, prescriptions, doctor's visits, dental, vision, all of that stuff. So you'll be able to use that HRA for those purchases. The reimbursement, so this is the HRA reimbursement. So this is for a premium or a bill. So you'll pay the insurance company the bill. Via that insurance company will let Via know, oh, Reverend so-and-so paid their premium. Then Via will initiate that reimbursement process. They'll look at your HRA balance, and if there's enough funds in there, they will then place that amount back in your bank account via direct deposit. So reimbursement, you'll pay out of pocket for a premium or for a bill, service bill. The insurance company says, oh, they paid this. They'll let Via know they'd like to get reimbursed. Via checks your account and then reimburses that expense. For premiums, and this is for premiums only because they know what that premium is. So this is automatic or automated reimbursement. So in your account, the VIA benefit counselors can actually help you set this up. So this is wonderful. So this allows you to automatically pay your premium. So you pay your bank then sends it to the insurance provider, your insurance plan. The insurance plan then goes to VIA. They paid their premium. VIA then checks the account balance, and if funds are available, they'll put that back into your bank account via direct deposit. So this can be done with insurance premiums only because they know what that premium will be for the year. For a service bill or for medicine, that might fluctuate. So this allows you to even to not have to do any paperwork at all. And rest assured, the VIA benefit counselor can help you set this up. Okay. Oh, I got it right. So yes, Utah, Arizona, and Texas. Online, you can use their online tools anytime during the day. And then they're available Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern time via the telephone. Are there any questions?
Can you go back a slide to the,
Sure.
so I can write down the website? Thanks.
Sure. And I'll send this as a PDF as well.
Oh, okay.
Hey, Joanne.
Yes.
Will Ray and I talk to you more specifically, since I'm gonna stay with the Health Flex insurance after he retires? Because I'm quite a bit younger than him.
Yes, yes. So Sarah, you and actually Ray and Jan are in the same place. So we can continue on with your Health Flex, and I'll get with you and Ray on that offline. But yeah, we can make that so it's set up, and I'll let you know what it's gonna look like and cost wise and that kind of deal.
Perfect. Okay, thank you so much.
Yep, yep. And also I think Lori and Jan, you might be if you're over 65 and going in and getting Medicare Part B, make sure that when you set it up for it to start, it's when you start your retirement date, not to start it before then.
July 1st.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because you can, since you're on a health plan, that's a group health plan, it can be deferred until then. So
Excellent. I'll pull this link, the My Via Benefits link, out of the slide deck, put it in the email, along with the consultation link as well. And then
That's the YouTube when you say consultation link.
Oh, I'm sorry. The consultation link is that website that I showed with me in the yellow shirt.
Oh,
That's if you
okay.
wanted to sign up for the benefit education consultation with a benefit educator.
But you were
that
also
was
going to
work-
send a link to the YouTube as well, right?
Yes, and
Excellent.
that'll take a couple. Today's Thursday.
Oh yeah, I didn't expect it today.
Yeah, I'd like to send it all together if that's okay. So I'll send the summary on Monday. If there's a pressing question, you can always respond back to me on the email that I sent with the preliminary docs, or with your benefit projection. So I don't want to leave you waiting if there's something pressing. But and I'll pull out all the links and send all that out on probably Monday.
Great, thank you.
Sure. Oh, Tuesday. Monday's a holiday.
yeah, President's Day.
Yes. Yes, I'll actually be driving to Indianapolis, but I'll be working. But
Tuesday's fine.
perfect. Excellent. Well, thank you, everyone. I thoroughly enjoyed doing these. I hope it was informative. I hope there was stimulating enough to stay awake. I know I can put my family asleep.
I have to admit that sometimes it can be a little overwhelming too.
Yes,
A
I
lot of
agree.
information.
And when I look at something, I said, wow, we've got 3 sets of adjectives there. Why can't we're calling it lifetime income, we're calling it defined benefit, we're calling it annuity. I know they're all different, but can't we just agree on one term? Because sometimes the variety causes confusion.
Well, we appreciate you and all of your experience and expertise, Todd. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Todd.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.